Hi, everybody. This is Aurora, Path of Light. This is class number 3 of the 4-part series, and this is the 2026 presentation. And you know me, I'm always upgrading my presentation, so I hope that you will join in. Yeah, and this is, of course, focusing on a welcome to people who might be beyond the initial recording of this class as we're doing it live. But as part of my improvement, because you guys know sometimes I struggle with touching technology, reading technology, and accessing my notes, I have reverted to a very low technology solution, which you will see me squinting at throughout class, but you will celebrate because you'll be like, that is so much easier for Aurora to go through her notes than that. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm so lighthearted and silly, but to me, this is a fabulous step forward. So yes, I finally got the idea that I should assemble and print out my notes in a physical form, and that way it'll be a lot easier for me to refer to because this is going to be a notes heavy lifting, brain liquefying session for all of us. I hope that you are strapped in for the roller coaster ride and ready to go forward. This presentation will be many hours, and I will, of course, include bio body breaks, and I will assess the capacity for you to move forward. If you are too mentally disheveled by all the information, I'll say, okay, we'll save that for next week. But if I can get through all of this, that would be really wonderful. So we're going to talk all about the concept of photosynthesis and also the micromolecular activities that are happening in the fabric of space-time that actually bring together molecules, create molecular bonding. I want to say rationale, but it's not an intellectual rationale. The formful rationale, like the answer to the question of how do things stick together in order to make matter. And all of this is, of course, geared towards your own mastery, your own ability to greater conceive of what is matter, and then have a greater facility in transforming it or making it. And that's, of course, the essence of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. Of course, you can see Flying Rainbow Lasagna there in my larger sculpture, but also this is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. And we're going to talk about the essence of bringing together matter and energy, or really creating a bridge of comprehension, integument of comprehension that more accurately describes the entire continuum of what you're experiencing, which through your biological filter often comes out as a strict delineation between matter stuff and non-stuff stuff, which is energy, and also Einstein and all the things that he gave to you, but just blasting through all of that previous century stuff and really moving into a very, very different way of perceiving all of this stuff. And I gear this presentation to you, the good people of Earth, the good people who are in my class, and not any of the very benighted and intellectually and spiritually and emotionally inadequate people that often occupy the levels of science and technology in your world. So this is not a presentation for them at all, but I'm going to be using some of the notation of the world of science. So please don't be scared. Don't jump out the window. I will draw it all out for you and write it for you as much as I can. And also I have some screenshots to kind of save myself some time. I was thinking today also, as I have devolved as I have evolved. I am like post technology now. I'm back to a clipboard and a pencil. I really wish I just had you guys here with a blackboard. That would be the ideal thing, if I could just be like, okay, let me just draw this out for you, or even better, bunch of sand with a long stick. I will just draw it in the sand for you. But we will have to struggle through with the Zoom whiteboard technology. All right, so why, and I just don't even have to go into that, why I feel that way. But I would really love to be able to just draw these things out for you, but I will use the whiteboard technology to do it. The drawings are important because they are my contribution. So in this Path of Light curriculum, there are some things that I am using as a bridge for your mind, things that you're already familiar with or that others have already developed. And then I'm talking about that to make an analogy for you, but there are some things that are original to me and to what I am presenting to you. That initial diagram of the star with the photon and the singularity at the center is original to what I'm teaching you. And also the same concept of that loop of time or roughly convoluted surface of time that is being emitted from the star. That is original to me. And also, as I start to draw these diagrams today that I lightheartedly call the comfy chair, like with very strong allusions to a Monty Python skit, please know that this is original stuff that you won't find anywhere else. And it is groundbreaking, revolutionary, and it really actually describes the mechanism for microtelekinesis. Again, not gearing this towards the horrible people in the world that we are like in denial of in the moment. We're here on the path of light. We're not talking about those things. And I'll tell you about, the concept of heat and why when you're on the path of light, those who are not on the path of light become a non-heat irrelevancy. And that's what entropy is. We're going to get into all of that, but just please know I'm like really giving you not secrets of the cosmos, because it's not a secret. It's right there for anyone to see, but in its complexity, it is often overlooked. So please know that I'm putting the attention on this very, very important concept. So I'm going to do states of matter, and I'm going to do the actual action of molecular bonding, and I'm going to do basically microgravity. And so last week we did how light has an impact upon gravity. And I struggle to even say has an impact upon, let's say they're in a relationship. Light and gravity are in a relationship, but not the relationship that Einstein told you, which was more kind of like if light is like bicycle wheels. Here, I'll use my clipboard and my pencil. Like light is like bicycle wheels, and this is the flat surface of the fabric of space-time and consciousness, and the bicycle wheels go dum, 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 dum. And so if you bend this, if it goes over a hill, then the bicycle will just like go like, wee, here I go down the hill. And that's how everyone is conceiving of a gravity well and light acting in the presence of gravity. And I'm like, no, that is not what is happening. It's not like light always stays, whatever, 2 feet above the surface of the fabric of space-time. This is a convention. The fabric of space-time is not a flat clipboard at all. It is a sphere. So if we think of it as a sphere, now I'm asking you to do some mental muscle warm-ups, please. If it's a sphere, where is the hill? The hill doesn't go down, it goes in. It goes in. So as I'm going to be teaching you about microgravity, last week I taught you about gravity at the scale of a star. It's an infinite stretching inward. When I draw my diagrams, I might draw them as a convention. Here is the flat plane, and even show you a cross section as if I was chopping it like a slice of cheese or something like that. But what you're really going to see in your mind is a spherical inward pulling. So the comfy chair is not just something that goes down, just like the stretching of the fabric to infinity, or a black hole is not just something that goes down like through the floor, because your brain is wired to stand on the surface of a planet that everything stretches downward, like to the floor. But think about it from a higher universal viewpoint where everything stretches inward. So these inward stretchings and then ironing out and then the next inward stretching, that's what you're really seeing when the fabric of reality comes together. Okay, so once again, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Get ready. I want to say, like, put on your safety belt. The ride is now starting. Thank you. I'm drinking my wonderful tea, my wonderful mate. Okay. And I'm going to like see if I can kind of like clip this over here, literally clip my clipboard. And then I'm sure I will fiddle with it throughout class, but this will just make it, I think, a little bit slightly less awkward for me to be staring at things. Okay, good. The abstract path of light. And all of this is meant to be relatable to your experienced journey. I'm going to talk about these things not just as some exercise or something that is difficult for you to try to comprehend. Please know that my goal for all of this is for you to relate to this as you being on the path of light. So the first thing is breaking yourself of the habit, as you have been taught by Einstein and other scientists that are like him, of the journey of light being like a bouncing, like light coming from a star and bounces off of my dress and then bounces into your eye as a linear journey. Stop thinking about it as a bouncing, and we're going to start thinking about light only as a story. I keep on using this little charging cord. I hope that you can see it, like that it stands out against the background here. But that what is really happening is whenever you envision light is coming from point A to point B, like from the sun to my dress, that's a loop. That's one loop. an experience of what has happened in reality. But instead of then thinking, oh, then the dress had to bounce to your eyeball and then from your brain to the sun, that's the old linear way. Now you comprehend that the journey of light bouncing back to the sun is really a reduction of the shape of this loop. Here, let's make it go smaller, smaller, smaller. That is how it bounces, quote unquote, back. So it's not bouncing back, it's sent or beamed. So in all of these conceptions now, we move beyond the dead, stupid model of light simply like coming from the sun star or from a light bulb and going, wee, I'm out of control, and then bouncing hither, higgledy-piggledy off of the surface of something, and then bouncing into your eye. All of that is an outdated, obsolete model. Light is very much sentient, self-aware and self-motivated or self-volitional, and goes very, very specifically on its journey or on its path, but its path is not a linear path. It writes a story. Okay. So in the and so I did this last week. Sorry, I know I get fragmented sometimes because there are so many competing thoughts in my mind that I want to tell you about. When you look at the sun, really the only time in life that you will just have one simplified loop where it's just you and the sun overlapping at singularity and one loop is when you look directly at a sun or like the sun or a star. That's the only time when you can imagine there's one beam of light that comes either from, the sun or the star, from them directly into your eye. So that's just one loop. And it doesn't involve any other objects or creatures. And also, please know that that is one curated piece of light in a sea of light. Light is intelligence, information, data, awareness that has been curated, customized for you, for your eyeball, not accidental at all. Profound things to think when you are looking up at the sun and the stars, okay? So sometimes for me, like whatever, especially if I'm outside carrying home my groceries after dark, then it means it must be wintertime or something like that. I'm like, oh, like I have to carry these heavy groceries. And then I'm like walking inside, I'm looking up at the stars and I'm like, the magic, the wonderment, the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, these groceries are really heavy. Like I tried to portray this as like, remember guys, like you're getting a customized, bespoke beam of light directly into your eye. But often we are not in the moment enough to be able to recognize and appreciate this profound miracle. But please know that's what's going on, even as you're like struggling to bring in your groceries or do whatever basic task you have to do in the starlight. I hope that was hilarious. I'm like, so some of my jokes, I'm like, that was funny. I hope you're laughing. Good. But of course, if you were exposed to all of that light at once, and I'll put this down so I can gesture, and you recognize there is a sphere, an entire spherical continual shells of emanations of truth around a star. If you were exposed to all of that, you would probably be incinerated by the profundity of the pressure of information coming at you from all directions. So it is a good thing that you only receive one small amount at a time, much in the same way that I've described, a little seedling. A little tiny plant that only has 2 leaves cannot be in the middle of the field. It has to be in a sheltered spot or in your little greenhouse. And then as it gets more solar collectors and more leaves, it can ingest more light, and you're the same way. So we're going to learn a lot about photosynthesis today. And then we're also going to learn photosynthesis is how light becomes matter. And then we're also going to learn about how matter becomes light. And there are several different ways in which matter becomes light, one of which you are performing right now. Let's go over it together, class. So the ways in which matter becomes light, that's combustion. Hopefully none of you are combusting right now. Spontaneous human combustion. If anyone is combusting right now, please extinguish yourself immediately. We will all wait for you. Please jump into the bathtub or a fire hose or some large body of water. All right, good. All comedy aside, no, you should not be combusting right now. But there's also oxidation. Again, if anyone is rusting right now, again, I'm hilarious. But if you're having a problem with oxidation, probably not your best day. But then the final one is cellular respiration. This is the thing you are genuinely doing right now, where you are breathing and taking the oxygen that you're inhaling and absorbing on a biological level, and then transforming it through a very, very complex multi-stage procedure into the release of glucose, which is this physical building block of light type of molecule, back into energy. So in today's curriculum, the reason I made the choices I did, and please access all of your whiteboards and be assiduous students and watch all of those because they're really information dense and worth it to go over it many times because it's how musicians learn. But how these processes go through in the digestive process was so intimidating to me as a teacher that I was like, it is much more simplified if I just talk about combustion. So, because you're in the basics are you're in a continuum of all light. And sometimes the light is energy, but sometimes it slows down and it becomes matter. And then sometimes it gets liberated from matter back into light again. And your body is one of the conduits through which matter, which is solid and sometimes called glucose, is liberated back into light. And your cellular respiration is the way that that happens, but it's very, very complex. So for me, I made a choice to say, let's focus on combustion, a much easier chemical process to describe with these pictures. And so what I did was chose methane, which is the example like when I'm making my cup of tea or coffee in the morning, I've got a methane stove, a gas stove, you turn it on, and then the process of adding intelligence to water so that that way I can boil the water so that that way I can use it to make coffee, which then makes me more intelligent, not just through caffeine, but also through the addition of heat. We're going to get into the stages of matter and how the stages of matter represent increased intelligence. So again, you're in a sea of energy, and of all of the matter, some of it is more intelligent than others of it. And I'll get into this too later in class. I'll just say it to you right now. So also the flaw in materialistic human science is that it presumes that things that are a crystal or a solid are more intelligent or formfully designed than objects like a liquid or a steam or a plasma, where there's a lot of movement. And my proposal is that science is not complex enough on a materialistic level to recognize and decode the dance that is being presented on a molecular level. That when you perceive the gases of your room moving on a molecular level, like, first of all, think about the processing power that it takes to do this. Processing power would be like, how many computer chips would it take to run an animation of even, let's say, my room here, this many feet, like 12 feet by 12 feet, and the amount of gases that are in that space at this density, and then to actually model accurately what every single one of those little gases is doing, that would take a giant supercomputer, a lot of processing power. Now, please comprehend that that is the true nature of reality. Don't think of it as a dead, stupid computer. Think of it as a biological, incredibly complex, incredibly well-designed and well-administrated supercomputer that does intentionally run huge portions of RAM because it's not only generating and organizing the molecular movement of gases in the air and all of the exchanges of energy and more higher complex levels through across time, but also I've told you my whole story about just a 12-foot square of leaf litter outside in the garden out there, that and running that and the molecular exchanges there that are happening there between like potato bugs, microbes, worms. Like, you don't think it's that glorious. Or when you think supercomputer, you do not think potato bugs. But let me tell you guys, there is some complexity that is happening out there just at the microbial, fungal, energetic, cellular level. And it's so complex that human minds can barely even conceive of it, much less, decode it themselves. Most humans are just not complex enough for this. And then also have some anthropocentric leanings where they're like, that leaf litter potato bug nonsense cannot possibly be more complex than me with my huge human brainliness, right? And I'm being very sarcastic there. So why even bother looking into it? But I am telling you that there are molecular dances that are going on that if you had the proclivity and took the time to actually study it and decode it, you would find that instead of calling it secrets of the universe, and that type of hyperbole, let's just say like profound encyclopedias of knowledge that are on display in front of your eyes at all times, but have been largely discounted as just nonsense molecular movement. And the day when human science or materialistic science can actually recognize and be a part of that, that would be a day of celebration. And also, like, once you got to that level of perception, you would not be able to do your old-fashioned ways of, I would call it stupidity, of exploitation of resources and physicality, because then you would see that like the randomness is an assault on the orderliness of the larger things that one is a part of. So at that point, you wouldn't want to do a lot of the things that have become normalized or a part of human society. So it would require a huge amount of self-responsibility. Okay, but maybe, well, whatever. We won't even go there. All right. So blah, blah, blah. Moving onward. Instead of thinking of the linear model where you've got the sun as point A and my dress as point B and your eye as point C and bouncing or beaming of light, almost like a billiard ball between these different places of yourself, we in this class are doing the heavy lifting of consciousness, and we are considering these things as being all overlapping through the phenomenon known as singularity. Singularity is at the center of me. It is at the center of the planet. It is at the center of all matter. It is at the center of the sun. And so in that comprehension, we move from thinking of point A, point B, and point C as being all spread out across space. We're talking about the space-time fabric consciousness continuum here. We imagine them all as being overlapping. And when they're all overlapping, it means that the photon is not moving at all. The singularity and the photon and the objects that contain the singularity and experience the photon are not moving at all. But what is happening is a narrative structure, the point A to point B story of how did that light get from the sun to my dress? I don't know, but they told me a story in school that said that it traveled like this curly thing that went all the way across 93 million miles, and then it got here, and it took some amount of time. That's the end of the story. Like, go watch cartoons. But that is not truthful, or it is only truthful in a certain layer of reality. If we were to expand our definition of truth as like an accurate contextualization of your biological form of your senses, but it's as accurate as like some of the mythologies that ancient people that you would now make fun of said to themselves, as sorry, that's my little parenthetical fragment there, but it's only as valid as some of the other mythological stories that other cultures told to themselves in order to describe reality, or as valid as my initial assessment of reality when I came here as a walk-in, and I was like, oh, hot water comes out of a hole in the wall. Like, this is a valid assessment of reality, but it just was missing a huge amount of information that was everything behind the wall, including pipes, a hot water heater, the implication of a water company and an electricity company, and so much more. So take that as a genuine analogy, a genuine metaphor for what human materialistic science is only envisioning a tiny portion of the contextual narrative story that describes reality. And it might be a limited amount of accuracy, but it doesn't contain everything behind the wall, which is also important information, and why you shouldn't just blithely use all of the hot water, right? Because there's a price to be paid. And please apply this to scientific expectations of free energy or 0 point energy. That's kind of like, wow, like hot water comes out of a hole in the wall, like 0 point energy, like use as much as you want. It's like, that is not the right way to do things. And you have to know more about the context of singularity and how all of these things connect together. So I'm also going to talk a little bit here about the energetic economy. And as I'm speaking to you, good people of this class, as you comprehend more of what the path of light is and you embody that viewpoint more, you comprehend what I'm talking about with energetic economy. So you're coming out of a world that's boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And you got lots and lots of boundaries, because otherwise people are going to exploit you, right? But on path of light, things are different. Pardon me, just hydrating here. Okay. On path of light, what you really have is the living presences. So I'm looking at my notes, floating in a void, who reciprocally sustain one another with the music known as love. When I say those words, perhaps it might sound poetic and flowery. What the music known as love is that animation that I showed you in this class. The loops coming out and the loops coming back in. Love is literally more than a romantic concept or something whatever, a utopian fantasy and ideal. It is genuinely an equal balance of stuff that's sent out and stuff that is sent in. And that's actually the sustenance of what keeps a sun star alive and viable as a presence in the sky. Equal amount out as in, or that you could say that that is also the shape of the torus. Oh, by the way, you guys didn't notice that a miracle occurred. I know, just wait. I don't want to lose my train of thought or anything like that, but oh my goodness, I cleaned and organized my whole entire studio space over the past weekend. And I just hope that you recognize, like, I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign of the apocalypse. I'm joking about that, but this is a major, magnificent something that happened. But that's why I'm like, oh, I know exactly where my sculpture is. It's right back there in my newly organized studio. So the truth is, I know exactly where things are, but I just don't have it easily over here. But if I did, I would bring it and I would show you the red torus shape that I always hold up for you and use that as an emblematic example of the stasis or the viability of an object that has equal going out as coming back in. And it's the definition of what that shape is in equal amount emanating from the central point, the 0 point, or the singularity point outward into reality and then circulating back in. Equal amount out as equal amount in. So in this loving, reciprocal, sustaining force field of energy that you and the sun and other organisms create and generate, you don't think of yourself anymore as standing on a gravitational surface, like the Little Prince, that charming child's book where there's like a miniature planet and then like this little kid that stands on it. Like this is like your child conception of standing on a planet. And again, it is comprehensible because it's based on your biological senses. And like you come here as a little tiny child and hopefully you learn to walk, you know, when you're like little and you learn like, oh, like these are my feet and my feet go on the ground and this is what I'm supposed to do. It's like, yes, but, and like, look, if you were a fish, you would imprint on this whole entire thing differently. And if you were a bird that flies mostly in the sky, you would imprint on this whole entire planetary gravitational thing differently. So please understand about that. And then also please understand that you're moving beyond the biological reality that you're in right now, and you're moving into an abstract presence. And the abstract truth is that when, like I always use, you, the sun, and a tree are in this interaction of light, you are all in this interactive, reciprocally sustaining triangle or polygon if there's more than three objects. And that is what you're mostly experiencing in the world. So moving from the viewpoint of all of these objects are dead solid objects that have light bouncing off of them, kind of like, you know, mirrors or reflective objects or something like that, that all bounce into my eye. That's a dead materialistic way of looking at the world. And instead, when you look at it, what's really going on is you and all of these other alive presences are part of individuated time loops. There is one loop for each organism. So there is one loop for you as a human. There's one loop for the tree outside. There's one loop for whatever, a microbe or a plant, something tiny or something like that. And as the three objects interact, the loops get smaller. And so, like, the energy coming from the sun to the tree is not errant energy. It is being beamed from the sun to the tree. And we have to talk about those beams of light. I told you already, like when you commune with a star, one beam of light comes to you and it's going like this, like it is polarized. Like it might be going like here, imagine this is the beam of light. It might be going like do, 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 do. But it might be going like do, 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 do. Like at an angle like this. It might be going at an angle like this. So we look at light from the side and we see it's up, down, up, down, up, down. But that can be at these, you know, various angles that literally it's the entire 360 degrees that it can be reaching you. So the light is polarized. And when light is being beamed from the sun to a tree, it is similarly polarized, like there is a slice or a small part that's getting to the tree. And then when the tree beams light energy at you, and as you are in a conversation, a frequency with that photosynthesis being, it beams a certain amount of itself at you, but not all of itself at you. And you perceive this as color. And then you perceive and beam the event to the sun, and that is the action of the loop getting smaller. Okay, good. You're doing very well. So those loops getting bigger and then getting smaller, that whole animated thing that I showed you, that is this syncopated presence, that is love. And that is all of these event structures that are coming out and going in. So we're talking about this like on the larger scale of suns and stars, but now we're also going to start to talk about this on the tiny molecular scale. Pardon me while I do my fantastic, I hope I'm not doing the wrong thing over here. I gotta change. You're like, wow, old-fashioned paperwork. I mean, okay, hold on. Well, I fiddle with paperwork. Ta-da. Okay, we got it. Um, okay, and I've already asked you these questions again, these rhetorical questions, but I will continually ask you more and more rhetorical questions as we're in this class. Ponderously putting my thing up here. Okay, okay. This is from whiteboard number 4. The question of as energy relates to light and as energy relates to matter. Questions of is energy finite or infinite? All right. Is it born? Is it created? Where does it come from? What makes light or what makes energy? And then, because this is important stuff, because like, what if someone takes it? What if there's a finite amount of energy, and what if somebody takes your energy? And then you're like I'm supposed to have $100, and now I only have $99. How can I go on? I better get that dollar's worth of energy that someone has taken from me. Or is it there's an infinite amount of energy, and you're like, oh well, I've got $99, but I need an extra buck. I'll just make an extra dollar of energy someplace. And then will that be used as a negative impetus for that which is destructive and I want to say degradation into degradation to say, well, I will steal $1 from you as long as you can replace it easily. I'll steal $5 from you as long as you can replace it easily. Like, so the answer to a lot of these things are there is an infinite amount of energy. Scientists are like, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me about 0 point or I want to steal it all. I'm like, no, scientists, go away. No, you don't get to steal. And also, none of this information. So, a better way of saying it is that none of this information is meant to be able to give an impetus or a motivation for the misuse or misappropriation of energy. Energy should and shall continue to be looked at as valuable and treasured, not as random or disposable. And it's infinite and it's ever expanding. All right. So again, in the human, materialistic, and very benighted viewpoint of people, like think about when the substance known as plastic was first invented. Humans of this negative viewpoint were like, hooray, an inexpensive kind of clay that I can use to make things and I can make a million of things. I can make an almost infinite number of things, and then fill the world with these things and become a wealthy millionaire by selling them. None of that is the correct application. Like that is a definite stress test or like a characteristics test. Like a civilization has developed this polymerization process to create plastic. How do they treat it? And they're like, cheap, disposable. I mean, it comes at huge environmental costs, of course, but let's do it. Cheap plastic, everything. Like that was a turning point in civilization, an exemplification of very, very negative personality characteristics of those who control industrialization and manufacturing in your world. Not all of you. Some of you were like, no, handcrafted and made of wood. And some of you were like, I don't want to participate in the dollar store mentality. I would rather create things that are long lasting. But some people are like, cheap disposable spoons or whatever you need. Make more cheap disposable toothbrushes, more and more and more of these things. And that is an insult to matter. So the answer to these questions are that you do have an infinite amount of light. And also, like when you read the words off of a page, pardon me while I hydrate, you go to a library. If you are a good library patron, you read the words off of the page, it does not damage the books. And you leave that information on the page for the next patron or person to come along and absorb it. In this way, the light or the information or the sentience is never diminished if you're doing it right. And I don't even know if people need what is it called? Remedial reader on civic responsibility that you must never damage library books. Like this is a privilege. Going to a library and reading is a privilege, and you must never tear out pages, fold down corners, or in other ways reduce the capacity for the next person to receive that light. Like this is how we're supposed to treat light, like as something that is positive, treasured, that you want it, and then you want to give it to other people, especially people in the future. And this is also the concept of your body and being a container for light and DNA and what DNA is actually doing, moving light forward into the future. So, a piece of wood, a log of wood also moves light forward into the future. I'm going to jump in the curriculum a little bit now, but let's talk about the process of photosynthesis and what is happening there. A beam of light very, very specifically beams itself in a higher organized state than the plasma that it comes from. The plasma ball is the sun, and it goes to a leaf that is a chloroplast, and it says, I would like to be a part of you. Like there's a real conversation there and a real intention, just like the sun star or the star at night beams light into your mind and says, I would like to be a part of you. Even though you're struggling to carry in your groceries and do all sorts of other important stuff to stay alive, I'd like to be a part of you. Can I beam inside of your eye now? And the light becomes a part of part of the leaf through the process of photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis means stuff. Light becoming stuff. That's a miracle all around you at all times. And when you're on the path of light, I know there's interdimensional battles and nonsense, bad stuff that goes on all the time, but please take time to really imprint upon that miraculous nature of what you are submerged within. That even like people are witnessing this photosynthesis miracle all the time, and they're like, the stupid grass is growing in the wrong place. It's all on the sidewalk, and I have to spray it with some kind of a chemical. Like, get away from me, stupid miracle. Stop growing up between the sidewalk cracks. This is how the world is thinking of things. That is wrong. She'd be like, miracles. Miracles are happening all the time. And miracles are even happening under such non-ideal circumstances, like inside of pavement or sidewalk, that it's like inevitable. So you, good people, please imprint upon that, the sense that the nature of a seed to germinate and then create photosynthesis, like this is a big emphasis miracle happening all the time. And it must never be taken for granted. So this is part of bringing your mind state into this reverence for what light is. Like there's an amazing light presence that makes seeds germinate and makes photosynthesis, leaves happen. It happens all the time and you can depend upon it, but you must always be grateful for it. Same thing with like the light that is generated and emanated from the sun. Like, so the lesson that I'm trying to give you here is mutual self-sustenance, mutual sustenance. You sustain yourself, but you also sustain these other light presences, and you are intimately interwoven with them. So this is also more of this curriculum, and I'll affirm this even more when we get to the end of the class today. But when you're on the bullet train of infinite speed, there's only you and everyone else who is at light speed and beyond. And you are at infinite levels of intelligence because you're at infinite levels of heat and hotness. You want to make a lot of jokes about like hotness, like how hot your body is, but you're going to have a super hot body, and everybody next to you is also going to have a super hot body. I hope that you are laughing in hilarity here. The multiple meanings of hotness. But no, I'm not just talking about physical attractiveness. I'm literally talking about the organized dance of your molecules. So, I'm talking about in the atmosphere around my room here, organized dance of molecules. But scientists are like, that's not organized. I'll go back to, whatever, my microscope and things that are more accessible to me. And I'm like, that is organized. It's a dance. It's a molecular dance, and I'm a dancer, and so I definitely recognize these complexities. And also, I'm a time psychic. So there's that word, like there's like clairaudient, clairvoyant, all these different words for what type of a psychic you are. So I'm a time psychic. I don't know what the word is for that, but I see the expressions of multidimensionality across time, and that is also how we must comprehend the molecular dance. It's not just a snapshot or one thing. It is something that's like this, then it changes like this, then it changes like this. And so there is a story that is being told through the transformation of the molecular movement of matter. And this represents a huge amount of intelligence. So when I talk about the different states of matter, from something that is solid, and this is going to be on your screen, but I'm not going to draw the whole thing, but do your homework and you'll know what I'm talking about. I draw this little graph at the bottom of the screen, where over here you've got solid, liquid, gaseous, plasma, beam. So this is going from more dense all the way up to the least dense stuff, or from more matter up to stuff that is pure energy. But then there's always the Bose-Einstein condensate, which is even denser than this level of solid matter. And that is what happens when you have all of this energy removed from matter so that there's really no dance. The dance is intelligence. Everything from this level of my hand forward in the graph is present, sentient, and some amount of intelligence. The movement of molecules that we describe as heat represents intelligence. And this is definitely a truism in the fabric of space-time as it is experiencing heat. And when there's entropy, it equates to a total lack of sentience, a total lack of presence, a total lack of motion. There's no motion. That is presence of space, but no movement across time. And that is stuff that we would consider to be frozen and no longer present and no longer moving through time. So when I'm talking about gravity, another thing I really wanted to emphasize for you is, and I didn't even let that sink in. Like, you guys are like, wait, we just ate a giant meal. Now there's more stuff. I'm like, yes, here's cuisine part 2. These loops that I'm showing to you that you know are more than just a line. They're like a fabric that is made up of many pieces of thread and it's all knitted together. When I talk about gravity and microgravity, the thing that is being stretched are these lines. So, usually I draw this as lines that go from point A to point B. And what would that look like? We'll just hold it up like a piece of paper, a flat plane. And then we stretch the flat plane. I wanted to say the fat plane. The flat plane, it's very flat. It's not fat. Come on, guys. It goes down like this. What is being stretched? The timelines. And so when I start drawing the fabric of space-time at a micromolecular level, what is being stretched? These stories. The stories that are what light is emitting. We are stretching stories here. Okay, good. Just file all of that away. Let's keep on moving forward. Okay, so onto a little bit of a primer on flying rainbow lasagna, because this relates in terms of energy and entropy. All right. So when I'm doing flying rainbow lasagna, I'm in my higher dimensional state, and I'm part of this ecosystem of energy where I know that I'm an individual and my individuation is not in question, but I am so connected to all of these many of these other things that I perceive light and time and interconnectedness as an ecosystem of consciousness. Please know that flying rainbow lasagna is not in random or arbitrary interconnectedness of everything. So I write that hilariously in my notes as interconnecting everything, yeehaw. No yeehaw. Very selective hyperconnectivity, meaning we are bringing together things that used to be separated, like time versus space, or matter versus energy. They used to be in these dualistic oppositions, but we're not bringing them together willy-nilly, bringing them together very selectively. So not just giant soup of everything smooshing together in the soup pot of universal consciousness. No, selective. And that goes back to the bullet train of fast speed. When you're on the bullet train of fast speed, you have regained all of your energy and it is 100% focused on you. And then everything around you has to be either moving at the same pace as you or in a state of non-existence. And non-existence is called no thing. It is nothing. So you're surrounded by nothing that is moving at a speed that is not as fast as you. And you are only surrounded by the thing that is moving at the same pace or faster than you, and that is light. I'm going to emphasize it many, many times. You're going to get it. You're like, I almost got it. Don't worry. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. Flying rainbow lasagna is not a total dissolution of all boundaries. It is a bringing together of greater connectivity of surfaces, and the surfaces are of that woven fabric of space, time, and consciousness. Okay, and that's an important distinction to make. It is still following divine intelligence, but transmitting that divine intelligence to an even higher dimensional level. All right. Flying rainbow lasagna, when I do this dance, and you do it as well, it is beyond egocentricism. And the individuation part is important, but it is also important to note that you are part of a larger network. And so in my identity, I'm like, I stay me. I'm still a garden hose. I'm the conduit of energy, carrying energy from one place or bringing it to another in time. But I use the energy and then I release it. This is really, really different than how a lot of people think about money in this world, where they're like, no, money is mine. The money is mine. I hope this is funny. Like, I'm sure you guys all know people in your life who are this way. They're like, no, money flows in a unidirectional flow from you to me, and then it stays with me, right? Chomping my cigar. But when you're in the higher dimensional ecosystem of consciousness and pure light, energy or money or currency flows to you and flows away from you, and you're using it for an amount of time. And you don't identify with it as mine, my money, my stuff. And I'm not kind of advocating for some kind of gross communism, in the higher dimensions or future or something like that. Because I also recognize when the totalitarian state has a unidirectional flow of currency to itself, that is called totalitarianism and communism, where it's like, yes, you will own nothing. I'm not advocating for any of those. Those are all really wrong recipes and aberrations and misappropriations of the truthful energy that I'm trying to bring forward here. Because when you're connected to everything, you're responsible to everything. And that means you want everything to thrive if you're not self-destructive. So in your body, if you recognize everything is your body, from like your big toe all the way to the top of your head, you're like, I am all of this stuff, and I want all of this stuff to get proper oxygenation, water, life-affirming chemicals, and stay alive. Otherwise, you would have dead body parts. That would be very bad for you. So when you are on the path of light and you are a part of this infinite bullet train of fast speed stuff, you want all the stuff that is fast to stay alive and keep on moving fast, because all that stuff is you. And all the stuff that isn't you isn't moving fast. It isn't moving at all. It's over here on this part of the screen, which is entropy, Bose-Einstein condensate. So the only problem is that you come out of a world that is mystifying because there's some amount of stuff that never should have existed, that's aberrant, that somehow was moving faster than a Bose-Einstein condensate for some amount of time when you encountered it. And then now, luckily, through Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you're able to send that stuff to entropy and then have everything that's supposed to get on board the bullet train and be moving at super fast speed. Okay, we're going to move beyond this, but I'm going to return to this over and over again because it has to do with that 0 point energy and whether it's okay for someone else to steal your energy and make a bunch of destructive stuff out of it. And the answer is no. It is not okay for anybody to do that. So in non-egocentric self state, the energy is not proprietary. That's what it means when you're not like, hey, this is my money, but it is the energy that you're using for a certain amount of time. So maybe a better way of thinking of it is water and hydration, where it's like, okay, like here I have some beautiful water and I'm using it for right now. But then, of course, you guys all know what happens. You drink water, you hydrate, it processes through your body. Eventually, you will urinate it out. You're not using it anymore, but you have stayed yourself. Like you haven't washed yourself away or dissolved vital aspects of yourself, but you have utilized the water for your own body processes, and now you release it, and then it goes back into the environment, and then it is utilized by something else in the environment. This is what we're talking about, this constant flow of energy that flows through you when you are on the path of light and you maintain your own self-identity, but you are constantly in a flow. In fact, the definition of time and of light is that it is constantly flowing. So time is flowing through you right now, and light is flowing through you right now. You're getting information, you're processing information, and then you're going to get more information. Like you're right, like what do you think you're doing right now, guys? Like you're getting light from me, you're getting information from me, and then you're going to process that information, and then you will get more information. That is, what you are doing. But you're not losing your boundaries or dissolving your sense of self as you receive this information, and also you can embody this information, and then you can also transmit it to others with no loss of information. Once you start thinking of light as information and also as this momentum as information, then you start to comprehend how like you can have an ever expanding encyclopedia or body of knowledge. And that's what it is to be on this path of light. Okay, but just know that you're moving beyond personal ownership of energy. And maybe I do even have to remedially speak to that here, because in this world there are these things that are like secret societies or intelligence agencies or people or organisms that keep information to themselves, and or sometimes academic gatekeepers. And they're like, no soup for you, like information for me, but not for you. And that is also erroneous and not the way it should be. But someone's going to say, oh, you're a hypocrite because you're not giving this information that you have to a bunch of evil scientists in your world. And I'm like, I know. I am not giving these recipes to a bunch of evil scientists in your world, definitely limiting who I give the information to. So I have zero qualms about that. Just getting my clipboard over here. Um, Apologies while I fiddle with paper. Good. So, and how do I define individuation? Because this is also another profound question. Like once you start to be like, well, like I have water inside of me, but then there's water in my skin, and there's water in the air, and then there's water in that lake over there. How is me separate from lake? And a lot of this has to do with the individuated self state and the parts of my body that respond to me as opposed to the parts of body that do not respond to me. So like if I talk to lake and lake, or, mentated towards lake, and if Lake responded, I'd be like, oh, like that's a limb of my own life, right? But if it doesn't, then I'm like, that's not a part of me. So basically, my sensorium is myself, and the parts that respond to my willpower is myself. Other stuff that responds to other willpower is not my stuff. All right. I've already talked about that. Okay, good. Sorry, and you see me making my crazy face as well. Thank you. Um, Okay, energy and light, I reaffirm, are both defined by their speed, and the carrying of information is related to speed. So there is with light not really an effective way to make it no longer be fast and have it still be light. When we make light no longer fast, speed of light, it becomes matter. All right. So light is something that is moving very, very fast. And when it slows down, it becomes matter. And now we talk about the continuum of light, or the interplay of matter and energy. I already got Einstein. I'm making this face like, meh, like it's not the best food. Like, meh, like it's good for his times. A sandwich kind of like filled the gap, but not the best, most nutrient food. Okay. From the perspective of an embodied human in physical form, matter is what happens when you slow down energy. And when you add energy to matter, it returns to its non-physical state. And this is the states of matter. And this also represents the different transformative things that I brought forward before. I'm going to go over it again. That's combustion, like when you light something fire with fire, plasma as a transformative element. Cellular oxidation, that's when you breathe oxygen in, use it on a cellular level, cellular respiration, and then you are using that to transform glucose back into physical, from physical matter back into light. And then oxidation, and oxidation is rust, or like the green patina that you see on the outside of the Statue of Liberty. If you let that process go on long enough, the matter that is the Statue of Liberty is eroded away just by the presence of oxygen, and eventually there's no more solid Statue of Liberty. There's only the liberation, meta-liberation of that matter back into the form of energy. So hold on one moment, actually. Let me check out the time. All right, maybe we should. You guys are all fine. I was going to say, does anybody need bio body break? Let's not. Let's just keep on going forward, because I'm about to go into photosynthesis and actually teaching this to you. Okay, let me get to my correct pages here. We're doing photosynthesis. Oh, wait. First, let me just. And she's like, you're always just faking us out, Aurora. I'm sorry, I am. I'm faking you out, because first I want to talk a little bit more about energy and entropy, flying rainbow lasagna. That what is relevant here is the concept of entropy as the total slowness of energy. So if you take light is moving fast, if you slow it down, you get matter. And if you take matter and you slow it down, you get Bose-Einstein condensate, or matter that has no light and no intelligence and no sentience in it, and it is not moving at all. All right. The flying rainbow lasagna has these two nodes that are graphic, or like polygon representations of these two concepts, energy and entropy. But please know that this is a simplification. This could be stellated, meaning like oriented in all of these different directions. You can have entropy in a variety of different directions. It's not only in this mirror-like the sense of like mirroring. It's not only in the symmetrical sense. It can be in again a spherical. Sorry, couldn't even finish that sentence. Very, very hard. So let me read from my notes. Although it appears dipolar, it can be stellated in multiple directions. That's why my notes exist. Okay, good. Heat is a relative descriptive term. That means we have to say, like, how fast are these molecules moving relative to the other stuff that is either moving at a particular speed or standing in one place. All right. Relative to context. So heat is a level of intelligence that is denoted relative to space. And what have I been teaching you about photons? Class? She's like, oh, I don't know. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't feel under pressure. You're okay. Photons experience all time as now, but they do not experience space. Like I thought you told me that photons move from point A to point B. Photons are not moving from point A to point B, but they are emitting a loop that's a narrative structure. And if you go into a photon, here's what it looks like. I'm now going to show you my family portrait of what photons look like. Hold on. Okay, and let me also, I always press this, that way people aren't getting on camera if they don't want to be on camera. Move this to where you can see. Okay, good. So this is like family photos of baby pictures of photon. All right, so usually when I draw the photon for you, here I show you this. Usually when I draw, there's the red line that represents the star on the outside, but here we've just got the yellow line that represents the photon, and then singularity at its center. And to reemphasize, for any time that you feel like you need to think deep thoughts, every single photon has singularity at its center, and an almost uncountable number of photons exist to the point that it becomes an abstraction where you just have to think of it as an ocean of light, not a single molecule of water that makes up a whole ocean. But when you see photon, now think of this as like a cross section. Here is the front of photon, and here is the story that photon contains going into it. All of these little dots of yellow are story of photon, where photon has been all the way back to this origin point that we know as singularity. So instead of looking at this diagram as a flat thing or even a spherical thing, you must look at it as the present moment or present slice of the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. That if you go into the center of the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop, what's in there? Chocolate. Chocolate's delicious, okay? It's right in there. If you go in from now into the center of this time object known as a photon, what do you get? Get singularity. Singularity is chocolate. I'm joking. It is delicious, but it is not made of chocolate. Singularity is infinite speed, infinite fast movingness, and the hyper-realization and self-sentience of the knowledge of everything. And that is contained within every single photon. And again, when we think of photon, we think of it as a piece of cake that's part of this larger cake, but I'm encouraging you to just think of this ocean of cake, this ocean of waveforms that is very complex and multidimensional, and that there's really not a way to separate out one piece of it or one photon, but we do that as a convention, okay? I'm just about going to get into the actual journey of photosynthesis and what happens with that, because that's the journey of how light becomes matter at the molecular level inside of a leaf at all times. Okay, so when you are on the bullet train of infinity, the infinity state would have to have nothing that is not in the infinity state around it. What? Why? I'll read this for you. Because heat is a relative descriptive term comparing molecular movement relative to context. That means if you are super hot and super fast and you're on this train, you have to compare it to someone who is not super hot and not super fast and not on the train. They'd have to be at the train station, not being very hot. They're not hot at all. Burn, right? They're not hot at all. They're cold. They're cold, whatever, cold soup or cold oatmeal. And they're just sitting there looking at you, being like, you're so hot. I wish I was like you. No, that is actually not what's happening. They are not in existence. This is big stuff. When you are at this super infinite speed, there's not even a contextual relevance that you can use to measure how fast you're going relative to everything else around you. I continue. A state of total infinite energy means that there is nothing cold around the energy state in order to compare or be relative to the state of total energy that is the state of total heat, hotness. The infinite state would have to have nothing that is not in the infinity state around it. No thing surrounds this, okay? Surrounded by everythingness that is also in the infinity state of heat, motion, fastness, intelligence, and data. So what does it look like from the point of view of someone who is flying rainbow lasagna-ing? You are in that super fast state. You are occupying singularity and the fast moving everything self-knowledge state. And that is all that exists according to your perception. You are not perceiving anything other than that because everything else other than that is nothing. It's not everything, it is nothing is other than that. You are everything and nothing is other than that. Okay, good. Achieving a totality of energy can only be achieved surrounded by the presence of everything else that is also in an infinite state of being. I have that one circled with red pencil. Spoiler alert, you, this divine presence, you are infinitely sentient. You are infinitely self-aware and surrounded by every single bit of infinity that is similarly infinitely fast, infinitely intelligent, and infinitely self-aware, okay? And the individuation describes the sense of having a boundary, the flying rainbow lasagna, as an oscillation that supersedes boundaries. So you continue to have a boundary and individuation, but then you flying rainbow lasagna beyond those boundaries and beyond those individuation, but you do it in a perfect mathematical pattern. And pardon me, I need to hydrate. Allowing for greater communication. Hold on. Allowing for greater communication, literally like how surfaces communicate or touch between areas that would have previously been discrete, meaning non-touching. And we're talking about areas of time. Narratives and areas of time become able to touch when they wouldn't have been able to touch before through the flying rainbow lasagna. Getting my little clipboard here. Okay. Balance of sending and receiving. Doing so great. Okay. We're going to talk about glucose entering the body, and then we're going to talk about what is glucose and how is it made. I'm going to give you the recipe for that. And of course, if anybody needs a break, you can tell me in the chat. How are you guys feeling? Do you need a break? Do you need Gatorade? Do you need to use the bathroom? It's okay if you do. I am ready to keep going. Okay, so but first I want to talk about glucose and energy. Glucose is food, basically. Food and energy. Food goes in here. Food and energy enter the body. And of course, energy and waste materials leave the body. Energy is leaving my body right now. Like I have heat coming off of me in every direction. That counts as energy leaving my body. And also verbal energy and cognitive energy. And waste materials. We're all familiar with where and how waste materials leave the body. But key point is that you still look like you. So I've told you already, and you guys do the same thing. You ingest ideas, food, energy, heat, water, different various materials that are building blocks for your presence remains unchanged. Your presence remains formful, even though you're in a constant flow of both matter and energy that enters into you and exits you. This is the concept of homeostasis. And there must be some boundary or form that we define as mine, so that way you do not simply have all parts of you flow away. Like if you drank a glass of water and all of the water in that glass of water united together with all the water in your body and left your body, there would be no more you. You have to be like, no, I drink water and then I release only a certain amount of water so that molecularly I still continue to be myself. Important life lessons there. And that actually is an important life lesson because it relates to how do you behave in this world of light on this super fast bullet train of everythingness. You do not lose yourself. And I have described it as being an ice cube in an ocean of water where you maintain your capabilities even while you are in this sea of energy. Okay, photosynthesis. So first up, let me put this over here. And I'm going to draw pictures for us. So I'm doing share screen. Okay, not this part. This part we already looked at. This part we looked at last week. Photos, no, this is in the backwards order. We'll get there. This is for later in class. This is photosynthesis. Good. And let me also see if I can get, I don't know if it'll give me that silly old thing. Will it give me that silly old thing? It won't. We'll see if technology will work for me. I'll try not to get too inflamed here. Okay. Photosynthesis is when a beam of light comes from the less organized plasma being that we know in the sky as the sun, that emits itself or goes on a story or a journey to become part of the world of matter. And it becomes part of the world of matter through the process of photosynthesis. That means light becoming matter. And it happens in the living presence of a plant or a living creature that has chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are the molecular, biological, supercomputational devices, hardware that perform this magical activity that I'm describing to you. So in this magical activity, we have carbon dioxide. You're familiar with that. You guys know what that substance is. You breathe it out all the time. Then you also have water. You guys are familiar with that substance. And sunlight. And sunlight, when science describes these chemistry molecule events, it's like just throwing a dash of sunlight. Like it's the simplest ingredient and the most whatever boring vanilla thing. Like there's all sorts of different types of sunlight. So what I'm trying to say in a hilarious way is it's not just a dash of random light. It's like a very, very specific amount of light that is information. Just like imagine saying, and throw in a dash of random information, like not a dash of random information, a dash of very, very specific, very, very finely calibrated information. But this very, very specific amount of information is crucial in the recipe. Let's also talk about scientific notation. In scientific notation, I've almost taken it for granted that you know that CO2 means carbon dioxide. But what we're talking about here is a shorthand to talk about atoms. Here you have one atom of carbon, and the O2, the 2 is here because you have two atoms of oxygen. One carbon and two atoms of oxygen makes carbon dioxide. Here you've got two hydrogens and one oxygen, and then just a smear of light, all right? And then over here, so also this arrow means it turns into. So this is what the scientific notation is. This plus this turns into equals sign this. And you must have a balance between this stuff that is here and this stuff that is here in a chemical equation. Wait, we must now all stop. We must stop and hold on class for a moment because Cheeky just woke up. Hold on, let me move my whole whiteboard and everything like that because we need to hug Cheeky. Cheeky is like, I am here and you all need to have a brief intellectual break. Where'd you go? And we need to, there we go, hop down and say hi. Good job. Good job. Everybody relax your efforts for a moment. Hug a small dog if one is available. I want to say, or one may be assigned to you. Oh, good job, Cheeky. Good job. And I don't know if we'll eat any food. Hold on a second. I don't know if we'll have that. Maybe we will. Cheeky had a tummy ache this morning. That's why I don't know if we're going to have anything. Hold on. Let's all have a brief moment's break before we dive back into photosynthesis, okay? Brief moment's break. Going to pause for us. Thank you for that, guys. Cheeky has been thoroughly bribed and we are ready now. Okay, so back to my share screen. And now I'll be able to get the annotation. Good. So in all of this, you have thing plus thing. And then this arrow means transforms into or equal sign, this plus this. And the just like in an equation, this must equal, my face is equal sign this. Equal things. So however many molecules of carbon however many atoms of carbon we have over here, we need to have the same number of them on this side, all right? And now let's talk about what happens when you combine carbon dioxide and water and sunlight and this crucial chloroplast that I have drawn over here. You end up getting glucose and oxygen. And glucose recipe is 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, 6 oxygen atoms. And then oxygen has a recipe too. You're like, Aurora, I'm already confused. Don't jump out the window. Stay with me, guys. So a big number like this in front of the oxygen means I have 6 of them. And then a small number like this off to the side means that I have 2. So let's multiply 2 times 6. And what does that give us? You're like, I know this one, 12. Yes, it means that you end up having a total of 12 oxygen atoms. So if I took away this 6 over here, I didn't, yeah, I did. I actually did. I just drew something, but I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh my God, I'm very scared. Here, let's change a different color. Here, if I take away this, then what you would have is O2. And that's because oxygen bonds with itself. You will always have a pair of oxygen molecules. And so if you have a pair, it means you have 2. So again, if I have 6 pairs of something, class, how many do I have? I have 12. So you will get this. Don't worry, you will get this. So now I have to stop this part, but now I'm going to move this part over here. And now I'm going to go over to here. And now I'm going to go back to here. Did this thing just work? I think it did. Miracles do occur. Okay, so the first thing here that I did was I drew out 6 of these because you have 6 pairs of this. You're like, Aurora, I'm already lost. Don't worry. Let me just teach this to you. In order to bond carbon dioxide and water, we have light. Light is information. Light comes into this situation, busts on in, and says, okay, I'm prepared to make some glucose happen here. The first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have to break you guys up. You're breaking up. Breaking up is hard to do. Sing the song. Come on, you can do it. This carbon dioxide is being split apart, the carbon from the oxygen. And then this oxygen is going to fly off. I'm scratching through here because this is no longer going to be part of the picture. The oxygen is going to be turned into a gas that literally flies off and goes somewhere else. And then what's going to happen is we are going to put together all of this remaining carbon, all of this remaining hydrogen, and all of this remaining oxygen. Let's count it up like a la Sesame Street. Let me get a different color. All right, let's count up carbon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom. Look at this number right here. Class, what is this number right here? It says 6. That's me in high falsetto. That's you. You saying that it's 6. There are 6 carbon atoms there. Let's count. So H2, that means that there's 2 of them. So we count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Look at this. There are 12 hydrogens. And then let's count how many of these oxygens there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. There are 6 of them. And they all smoosh together. All of these smoosh together in order to create this new molecule. And this new molecule is called glucose. So this description here with these numbers, letters, and vague smooshing is how science has described this process up until this point. But I am now going to blow your mind every conceivable direction because I'm going to draw it for you in a much more accurate way. Here, I'm rewinding back so I don't have all of these smooshingness here. Doing really well. Look, and because now I'm going to make this part go away. I'm clicking this. Now I'm clicking this. Now I'm showing you. Nope, this part goes away. Nope. What? Maybe I spoke too soon. Okay, that's okay. I thought I had everything all prepared and ready, but I'm going to go in a different direction. No. Yes. No. I don't know what to do. Go back to this. This part here. No, go back to this. This part here. That's not the right one at all. You're like, Aurora, that's it. I'm jumping out a window. No, guys, I believe in us. We can do it. That's not the right one. That's definitely not the right one. Okay, let's just do a whiteboard. My face, I'm so upset. Okay, we can do it, guys. I believe in us. New whiteboard. Okay. And you can tell I have to fiddle with papers. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is draw for you my whole new way of describing what molecules are doing in these bonds. Science calls them covalent bonding, meaning that it is about how the electrons fit together. Like, oh wait, let's see, let's get a better. I'm trying really hard because drawn with this electronic pen. Science describes the bonding as happening like here is the atom's nucleus. Here's another atom's nucleus. And then here would be just green means electron shell. And here's an electron shell, and here's an electron shell. And science just and like here's an exaggerated giant blob of an electron. And here's an exaggerated giant blob of an electron. And science is like, oh yeah, so somehow mystically these two guys create a figure eight and they figure eight together and they become stuck together. And that's covalent bonding. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like giant X. Wait, I'm really going to draw this out for you. Giant X. No, this is not what I'm talking about. Now let's erase and rewind this whole entire thing and let me draw this properly for you. So the first thing that I have done is invented a way to be able to describe the microgravity wells that are what genuinely shapes molecular interaction. So when I draw this, what I'm drawing is a vortex that goes down. Oh, I want to try and make it better because this is the part when you actually learn about stuff. That wasn't quite so close, so close, so close. It's so hard to draw with these things. I struggle with it so much. So I wish I had a chalkboard. I should have a regular chalkboard. That was hard. Okay. So usually when I draw that fabric of space-time, I draw it as a flat plane, and then I draw, the infinite stretching of the fabric of space-time all the way down, and that's a black hole. But here, this is not what we're looking at. What we're looking at is only a partial little dimpling of the fabric of space-time. I could call it a depression, but that's very depressing. So I just shy away from that. It's a little dimpling or like a golf ball hole, like where these little molecules go. So you can also say like dot, 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 here's the upper fabric of space-time, upper fabric of space-time, and then all of this other stuff goes down slightly, but it doesn't go down all the way. So that's the first part. This is my contribution. Like I have invented this, looking at this as a microgravity well. And when we have a molecule such as carbon dioxide, this is what we have. So here I am drawing carbon, and I'm going to color this in as black because in all of my drawings, I am consistent with colors. Black is always going to represent carbon, and then blue is always going to represent oxygen. So now let's draw two oxygens. And that is O2. That's carbon dioxide. And so the reason why these atoms stick together is because they are what I call in the comfy chair. They are in the comfy chair together. So do you guys like have a dog, a cat, a guinea pig, a hamster, whatever? Have you ever gotten into your comfy chair and then everybody gets on top of your lap and everybody smooshes together? This is what is happening on a molecular level. And you also just saw that I used the color yellow because in all of my diagrams, whenever I use the color yellow, what I am talking about is light. And light is more than just heat or an abstract optical energy. It is intelligence. What actually creates this downward dimpling comfy chair is light itself. So this little depression, it's but a minor depression, everybody, don't worry. This minor depression that molecules find themselves falling within or jumping into is a more active way of saying it, is the end result of light. It is the intelligent warping of the fabric of space-time. And the fabric of space-time is made out of, I don't know if you can see it because I'm in the tiny thumbnail, these loops, the loops that emit as the story, the narrative story of the journey that the photon makes. The photon is staying home in its comfy pajamas. It is not actually going anyplace. And the intelligence of the photon transforms all of those narrative structures into these tiny depressions. That is what actually holds together matter. The matter, CO2, is the end result of a story that is told by light. This is what is actually happening. Now, in order to unbond, first of all, a few critical infrastructures to comprehend in my diagramming. When atoms jump together into the comfy chair and they're smooshed together, that is actually when light is emitted. Light comes out. You want to think that light is emitted when we break apart these bonds, but that actually takes light. You have to put light into the system to break these guys apart. When they jump into this system is when they emit light. So think of it like this. This is the super comfy chair. When you get into your comfy chair and then your cat and your dog jump on top of your lap, everybody is feeling super mellow. You are feeling restful. You're in your restful state. And in order to get up out of the chair, what does it take? It takes like a crowbar. It takes whatever, like a crane. They'll need a crane to break you all apart. It takes a lot of energy. So to get everybody up and out of this tiny microgravity well, it takes light. To reiterate, light is what creates this tiny dimple. Light is what informs these guys to get in there and sit down and smoosh together. And then light is what tells these guys to get on up and get out of bed or get out of the comfy chair. So this is what molecular unbonding looks like. You have to put light into the system. So here I am putting light into the system. And then this little guy is going to jump up here. All right, so let's draw oxygen goes up here out of its restful state into its I'm ready to get stuff done state. And then this is where carbon goes. Carbon goes all the way up here to the edge. And now I will erase, 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 erase. And that's where everybody is when you are unbonded. And let's draw this. Dun, dun. These two guys have been broken up. Breaking up is hard to do, sing the song. And that is my diagramming, all right? And then once these guys are broken up, then they're ready to find some new partners, okay? So now erase, 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 or maybe I can just scroll, scroll, scroll. Now I will draw what is happening in photosynthesis. I thought I had this all prepared, which is why I'm moderately annoyed because I'm like, wait a minute, I thought I had this all prepared and I didn't have to draw it, but I'm going to draw it for you. Don't worry, and you're going to love it. So this is super fast and messy. These are all of these tiny gravity vortexes, gravity wells that are where you are already going to have. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I get sloppier as it goes. All right. So now let's do. Here's a carbon atom at the base of every single one of these comfy chairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom. Now let's do oxygen. We've got it's carbon dioxide. So I'll give you an easy question, class. How many oxygens are going to be in there if it's carbon dioxide? In falsetto, you guys are like 2. Correct. 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. I'm smart. I can count to 2. 1, 2. Great. Hooray. All right. So that's all of the stuff that I was showing you written out as CO2 before. Now what we're going to do is we're going to unbond everyone. So in order to unbond everyone, what do I have to do? Add light. Adding light. This is me pretending to add light, adding light, adding light, adding light. And what's going to happen? All of these puppies are going to unbond because they're all like, we're energized now. We are jumping out of our restful state and we are jumping up to this I want to call it like the lip of the vortex or the lip of the dimension. Okay, jumping up there. That one's especially jumpy. They're jumping out of the comfy chair. The doorbell just rang. Whoa, everybody's barking, everybody's getting up. All right, and then also let's change color to the black one and let's show those guys also jump out of the comfy chair. Everyone is up, and let me erase everyone who is no longer at the bottom of the comfy chair. So erase. Good. Get it? This is so satisfying, okay? You're going to love it, guys. Just stick with me on this little animated journey of what these guys are actually doing. So, hooray, fantastic. All right. But that's the carbon dioxide. In this chemical equation, there's not only carbon dioxide, there is also water. Because the interaction is carbon dioxide plus water plus light equals glucose. So now I have to draw 6 smaller lists. That's never going to work. That I will never have enough room. Oh my God. Okay, this needs to be a lot smaller. And then I think this needs to be a different color. All right, so let's draw this like this. No, you can't see that at all. That is terrible. All right, let me get a different, better color that you can actually see. What color can I make it? Brown. It's so unappealing. That's you cannot even see that. Okay, now I'm getting sad. I'm not okay. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And let's make this like a nicer color. I don't know, purple. Good. Somebody's I hope you are laughing. Good. All right. 2, 3. This is to represent H2O. 1, 2, 3. Good. So I got 6 of these babies, 6 of these vortexes. These are 6 more comfy chairs. I know I'm drawing everything really badly right now, but just know that this is going to represent water. And water is made out of H2O. You're like, I know that one. I know, you know that one. Let's get a bigger dot. Okay, so here is 1, 2, 3, just like Sesame Street. 4, 5, 6. And now let's do hydrogen. Hydrogen is always in red in all my videos. Hydrogen is always in red in all my videos. H2O, meaning we've got H2. Let's draw the 2 H's. Boom, boom, 2 dots. 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 So that's going to be the H12, 12 hydrogens that are going to go into this glucose. So for right now, look, all of these, let me get a good color here. This is H2O. This is water. They're in the comfy chair together. They're molecularly bonded. But in order to make matter, you're going to have to get these guys off of your, whatever. Stop sitting in the chair together. You're going to have to get everybody up out of the chair because it's time to make glucose and perform miracles. So look, I'm telling you guys, like the doorbell is ringing. You all have to get up. You have to get up and get out of there. So now we're going to draw the same exact thing. These guys are all getting up out of their restful state and up to the edge. Boom, boom, hydrogen, 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 boom, boom, hydrogen. And now let's do oxygen. Oxygen jumps up too. Oxygen is like, I need to get up. I need to get going. I have molecular bonding to do. Here's the boom, 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 boom. And now erase everybody who was down here. Everybody who is down here in their comfy chair, you all get erased because you now have all jumped up. So everybody is now fully unbonded. And look at how much energy and effort it took me to draw that out. I don't know if I can get that little guy and not erase everything. Oh, I did. That's light. All of this, me speaking and writing and drawing, that's light. It took light. Oops, I just erased something that needed to stay there. I destroyed the fabric of space-time. Okay, wait. No, again, fabric of space-time. That's it. We're done. We're done, guys. It's never gonna happen. Okay, good. I think I mostly did it right. Okay, good. So you can't see it, but there are 2 hydrogens there. They're just hiding now behind the scenery. Now, what we do is we jump all of these guys down to where they need to go into an even bigger comfy chair. So now I need to draw a nice, giant, colorful, let's make it green. Okay. All of these guys are going to go into a super giant, that's going to be too giant. I overestimated my capacity for giantness. Okay, but let's try to draw it properly. A giant comfy chair. Boom, boom. All right, this is the giant comfy chair. It's actually so comfy and so deep that all these guys are ready to jump down into it. Now, the first thing that happens, first thing is we added light. Let me grab this. Look, I added light. Remember, light. Make it a bigger thing that you can actually see. I added light in all of these different places, and then everybody jumped out of their comfy chair. So one of the first things is A bunch of this oxygen is just going to flow away because we don't actually need it. We actually only need, I think it was 12 oxygens, and we have more than 12. Let's count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We have definitely way more than what we actually need. So all of these oxygens here, they're just going to fly away. They're going to go hither, thither, and yon. I don't need you guys. You fly away. Oops, again, destroying the fabric of space-time, but just stick with me, guys. I really only meant for the blue dots to go away. But we leave the hydrogen. We still want those red dots there. And then the next thing is all of these carbon atoms are gonna be informed by light to jump down into the comfy chair. So they're not falling. They're not like, oh, remember I joked, Mr. Bill, oh, I fell down. Oh, something happened. It was beyond my control. No, they go down there very, very intentionally. So let's do this. There's going to be 6 of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's draw them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so now I'm going to erase the guys that are up here because they have all jumped down. And please know that in my recorded whiteboard, I show this as if it is a circle, but the chain of glucose is really shaped more like a chain. All right. Now, all of these blue dots are going to jump on down, have the right number of oxygen. I want to get the right color here. And we're going to show that all of those blue dots, also, that's too giant, are told by light, which is yellow, jump on down there in that comfy chair directly right now. And they listen. This is still too. All right, so we have 12 of those that jump on down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, and then all of these wonderful hydrogens are going to jump on down too. Let me get the smallest little color of red. No, it's going to have to be bigger than that because you won't see it at all. Okay, good. All of those little guys jump down too. We have 12 of those. Okay, good. And then you know that you need to have closure on this. We're going to have to erase all of these dots because they've all jumped down. So see if we can erase them without erasing the entire fabric of space-time. But then you will have closure on this diagram. And I don't know if I can do these red dots. They're very tiny. I mean, gave myself a very difficult task here. No, fabric of space-time, but you get it. You get it. Those guys go. Those guys go. Please laugh. It's hilarious. Good, good, good. In fact, what actually does happen is all of these comfy chairs are erased. Actually, should have just done that because that is accurate. What gets these guys up, I joke about it being the doorbell or something else that rings and makes you have to get up out of your chair. But what really happens is the chair disappears. The fabric of space-time is ironed flat, and there is no longer a little depression to inhabit. And that's why they must jump up. And then the only place that is available for them to go into is the new place that light creates in order to go in there, okay? So this is the visual representation of glucose. Glucose is solidified light. I'll go back to my face and I'll share all this with you again. No, I have to press the right thing. Oh my God. Good. And also, it is so hard for me to work with this thing and touch this thing, so I apologize for all of my difficulties in that, but I did get through it properly. All right. And now I have to kind of like rearrange my brain. Glucose is the primary ingredient of cellulose, and cellulose is the primary ingredient of wood. So in the plant kingdom, in order to have something that is more than either a moss or like a slime mold, something that grows just very without a lot of height, like some of these plants, they only grow like algae in the sea, moss, slime mold, they just grow on a surface. And in order for a plant to have anything that's like a stem that grows upward, and the greater levels of complexity of both stem and branching leaf, cellulose is the fiber that is made in plants to be able to support them, their like inner skeleton. And cellulose is made up of many, many chains of glucose. So light becomes glucose, one molecule, many glucose together becomes cellulose. Cellulose grows into plant fibers. And then plant fibers are what you have learned to burn in order to have light when light is not available. And this is called combustion. And this is how a log, like a piece of wood, stores light from the sun. Before humans managed to be able to unlock the light that was stored in something like a piece of wood, the presence of light from a star and its primary nature was considered, of course, miraculous and life-giving and completely essential. And the process of being able to unlock light from its storage position as a piece of wood is leveling up art form and allows humans to live better and to master their environment and to have, again, light available even when the primary source of light is not fully there. The light that is liberated from wood is not the full spectrum that comes from the sun. Like if you had a greenhouse and you didn't have solar energy and you wanted to grow plants in photosynthesis and you just created fires like bonfires, that would not be enough for plants to grow. Why not? Because it only contains a certain amount of the optical spectrum, mostly this stuff down here, not enough of this stuff up here. So when you are in firelight or candlelight or campfire light, what do you look like? You're like, I look rosy, yellowish, oranges. Yes, yes, you do, class, because you are hearing and seeing and sensing mostly these frequencies of the warmer tones and infrared. So we have done in this class the states of matter from Bose-Einstein condensate all the way up to beam. Now we have to do the electromagnetic spectrum. So I also draw this out extensively in my whiteboards, and I'll take less extensive time to do this for you now because I just want to explain it verbally, but go into the whiteboards and see it with your eyeballs because this is another way that you learn. So in the electromagnetic spectrum, I draw a line across the screen, and we start with over here, big, giant waves. That's infrared. You don't even see it as light. You feel it as heat. Then you get up into the little spectrum of light that's called optical light. And that's where you start to see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, the spectrum. And that's what we call light. But that is just because of the vagaries of your particular eyeballs that you are given as humans. And then upward from optical light, what do we have in that electromagnetic spectrum? You have electricity, magnetism, and then X-rays and beyond. In fact, let me turn in my notes over here so that way I can access all of this and make sure that I'm saying everything correctly. Apologies, we'll fiddle with paperwork over here. Very proud that I printed this out. Hold on. I mean, I have to like get a paperclip or fix it. Do it better for next time. Okay. Wait. We'll get into all of this. We'll get into all of this. I know, because I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Oh, wait, let me organize my paperwork for a moment, everyone. States of matter, states of matter. Hold on. Apologies. And I have to restart my thing. I have it in here. It says X-rays and beyond. Sometimes I get so frustrated. Like, I know that I'm looking at the right thing. No? No? Okay, well, I'm sorry if I couldn't find it right in this moment, but there I have a thing where I have it written down. Blah, 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 and then X-rays and beyond. So optical, sorry, I quit in the middle of my presentation here. Let's go back from the beginning. Infrared, heat, optical. Then you have electromagnetism, and then you also have X-rays and beyond. And those are all different sizes of waves. different sizes of waves, but these are all part of the spectrum of what we know as light, and they all move at the speed of light. So heat is infrared. It is at the lower end of the spectrum of these waveforms that are all light, moving at the speed of light, but being perceived through our biological apparatus differently. Infrared heat is absolutely intelligence, but it is not the correct level of or quality of intelligence to be able to perform photosynthesis. Photosynthesis requires this full spectrum of light that comes from the sun, which is why humans were never able to create artificial greenhouses or ways to grow plants out of season, only using campfires. That, and I'll do this presentation next week all about artificial light and non-primary sources of light, but basically the invention of electricity or the harnessing of electricity and the capacity for electrical light made it possible to eventually set up greenhouses and grow plants wildly out of season. But before then, no, you cannot do that. Because why? Because heat is a type of intelligence, but it is not the type of light intelligence that is required to inform photosynthesis. So in the photosynthesis equation, and I know that your brains are liquefying, but you're doing really well. And let's keep going. Plenty of time to continue running a marathon here. Keep going. And if you have to eat a cookie, like you guys need like some energy, all right? The light that comes into that equation with carbon dioxide and then water and then plus light, leads to photosynthesis. That light is different than light that is heat. It must be more than merely heat. So now we're talking about really the heat light intelligence that is required by the presence of the planet itself or herself in order to generate biological life. If you do not have enough heat to hyperorganize matter in this world to the point that water can be liquid, you can't have biological life. So a big error in the presumptions from the world of objective materialist science in your world about what is happening with matter is the consideration that, or presumption that, solid matter, such as a crystal or a solid, is more organized than a liquid or a gas or a plasma. And that is in error. So now I'm reaffirming this that I've already prepared you for earlier in this presentation. No, a solid piece of matter is not more intelligent. Although according to a person who would look at the arrangement of molecules, they would say, oh, look, a crystalline structure, the regularity of molecular structure and less movement tells me that there's more information there. So if you look at an ice cube, for example, that is frozen water, it's in its crystalline structure, and it has less movement than water that is liquid or steam or plasma. P.S. You can't have water that's plasma. It just has to be at something like 10,000 million billion degrees Celsius, and that is a hyperbole, but it is some ungodly, level of energy that must be added to it, but it can be a plasma. But I just organizing my brain there. So many apologies, as I sometimes am drawn off track by like mental gremlins that are trying to distract me during important things. Light and plasma. We'll get back there. I'll take it from a different direction. How about that? Plasma is in the states of matter. Superheated gas. That means it is super intelligent gas. So let me get back to this. Okay, where did I get these ideas from? I get my ideas from my tendril of attention. I'm getting up in the morning. I put my kettle on the gas stove. What am I doing? I am making my water more intelligent. What do you mean? I am adding heat to it. How does that make it more intelligent? The heat is light. Heat is infrared. It is a type of light. It is a type of cosmic intelligence. And when I create combustion underneath my tea kettle, it makes the water more intelligent. And then I joke about the caffeine making my brain more intelligent. But the truth is that ingesting heat is ingesting light. And in the correct amounts, it does make you more intelligent. I'm back to it. The sun, in order to create the art project known as biological life here, had to first make certain that this planetary structure was warm enough, that it had enough heat intelligence energy to be able to sustain life. And that includes and it has as primary sense photosynthesis, to have chloroplasts and have them be alive. So you must have light in the form of a beam of light that comes onto a plant to make it be alive. But I neglected to say enough in my presentation that you must also have heat, light, intelligence in the form of heat, in the presence of not only water that is liquid and can flow, but at the level of the soil microbes. Pardon me while I hydrate here. Got to have enough warmth to have microbes be alive. At the level of the soil and the roots, because the microbes are necessary to release minerals and make them bioavailable to the plants. So you guys all know this. They're like, well, duh, Aurora. You can't grow plants when it's wintertime outside. Why not? Because the ground is frozen. The problem is not the presence or absence of minerals. The minerals are there in the soil. The problem is that the water is frozen and the microbial life is either absent or dormant, and the microbial life is not intelligent enough in the form of heat to be able to generate life. So for photosynthesis, you do need more than just random light. You need specific beams of light going to chloroplasts, and you also need specific amounts of light in the form of heat to generate microbial health and to be able to perform the miracle of making minerals available to the biological cellular world. Okay. So think about this also. The correct amount of heat that must be available in a biological system for the water to be flowing so that that way it can be a part of these biochemical and molecular rearrangements. Everything I just drew for you with the water splitting apart in the comfy chair and then becoming a part of the chains of glucose so that you can have like, okay, girl, like let me drink, like what's in my tea? What's in my tea? Chains of glucose. What was in my lunch? Chains of glucose. Like you're going to need some chains of glucose. If you want to be alive in this world, kid, you're going to need some chains of glucose. Like what's so great about chains of glucose? It helps keep you alive. That is what's so great about it. But you're going to need more than merely chains of glucose in order to stay alive. Hold on. You're going to need to have water that is liquid at room temperature because that means that it can be split up. If the water in that drawing that I just showed to you doesn't have enough heat intelligence in it, it can't get out of the comfy chair. It can't unbond with its little molecular brethren and then go in new and interesting directions. It is much more limited in time of what it can do. So it must first be water in a liquid state to then be able to perform these larger, more complex chemical reactions. All right. There were a bunch of different directions my brain wanted to go, and that's why I just hit a wall there. I'm like, I want to talk about this, this, and this, and then I'm like, blah. Okay, consult my notes so that will help me to decide what I need to do. Back to the flawed materialistic presumption that a cloud of steam is somehow less organized than the crystalline nature of a piece of ice. A piece of ice is actually less organized, but science and materialism is not prepared in its complexity to perceive the intelligence that makes water or steam more intelligent than a block of ice, which is, oh, a block of ice is more intelligent because it is more regular and predictable. So the unpredictability and non-randomness of the movement of the dance is the intelligence. It's kind of like if you looked at a guitar or a piano that was just still and doing nothing and be like, this is more intelligent than a vibrating piano string or a vibrating guitar string. And thinking somehow, if you're not good at listening to music or you don't comprehend music, you're like, these random string movements tell me nothing. So therefore, I will presume when it is silent, it is more intelligent than when it is moving around. It's my best analogy of what I got spontaneously here. But no, those movements of all of the molecules through air or all of the flow of energy through water is completely non-random. It is highly orchestrated. And in the states of matter chart, when I give it to you, we get to this level over here where it's like you got like solid, liquid, gas. Then you get to plasma. Plasma is superheated gas. That means it's super intelligent gas. It's gas that has had so much energy added to it that the electrons that used to be bonded with or wedded to one particular atom become liberated. They're like, I'm not an old-fashioned traditional electron stuck with one atom for the rest of my life. No, I'm a liberated electron, and I go all around town doing whatever I want, being with whoever I want to be. And I hope that that was hilarious. But it's truthful. And these very whatever liberated electrons find all sorts of partners to be able to hang out with in the plasma realm. So plasma is a form of fire, like flame, and it is also the glowing ball of light that we see in the sky that is the sun. And in both of those circumstances, various gases have had so much heat intelligence added to them that the electrons don't just stay home with one person that they married a long time ago. They go all over the effing place. They go all over and they do whatever they effing want. That's liberation. It means they have greater degrees of freedom, and it means that plasma carries electrical charge. Electrical charge is, yes, the electrons that flow through a wire or are corralled by the activity of a copper wire that you're familiar with running your electrical appliances in your house. But electricity is a form of light. It is not moving at light speed when it is in the copper wire, or I say corralled by the copper wire, because what it really does is it bounces between the two sides of the copper wire. And because it does that, it's moving at slower than light speed. So some of these phenomenon or phenomenal aspects of light, the phenomenon, happen only in pure environments. And then when there are other obstacles or other aspects of the friction of reality, these aspects of light end up slowing down and being slower than light. So campfire is light that has been liberated from its materialistic form, but it does not contain all of the blue frequencies. And similarly, electrons, when they flow in a wire, contain some aspect of light and its intelligence, but not the whole cake. So these are both outgrowths of the primary light. Like light contains all of the nutrients that you need, and then heat, infrared, does not contain all of the nutrients that you need. And similarly, electricity does not contain all of the nutrients that you need. But these are both still outgrowths or phenomena that are flavored from or come from the original light that you experience. And that's why when you have electric light that is not primary light, it is an electron that flows and then creates this incandescence, or even worse, like an LED or a technological light. Those forms of light, you guys are already with me and can already fill in the blanks here. You already know my sentences, what I'm going to say, don't contain the full quotient of light at all. And in many ways, the imbalanced levels of light that come from artificial light sources are now being shown to be very biologically corrosive. If you are given too much blue light, it is not good for your retinas, not good for your brain, not good for your circadian rhythm, not good for your mitochondria. The real truth is that humans were your light body and your presence, like your spirit or your soul or the ephemeral nature of who you are. You're calibrated to eat all of these colors, to eat all of the rainbow, not just to only have a small portion of it. And the light that you are given in your daily gustatory everything's, the chef of the world is making this beautiful food for you, is very intentional. So I'll go through this for the biologically oriented aspect of yourself. When the light first comes up through your experience, the sunlight in the morning, it is coming in laterally through the edge of the atmosphere, and that means it's traveling through many, many, many layers of atmosphere. Most of the blue light is scattered because blue light is shorter wavelength and it gets scattered more easily. And so mostly the golden rays of dawn, or dawn's rosy fingers, that's how they always describe it poetically. And I always laugh because like aurora is another name for dawn. And so I'm always like, yeah, like my rosy fingers. But truly, the first frequencies of the day are going to be warmth, infrared, yellow, orange, red, all of those beautiful frequencies. And you're supposed to bathe your face in the sunlight of the early part of the day. If you are a primal human, you would be naked and you would walk around and get the primal sun rays all over your whole body. And what does that do? It actually creates beneficial forms of melatonin and other cellular support chemicals at the level of your mitochondria, so that later in the day, if this is Earth, and then here we have the sun up above at bright noon, lots of blue light comes in. And that is the correct thing to happen in the middle of the day. But your cells have lots of melatonin, which protects you from the type of damage that can come from all of that blue light coming in. So your body's like, no problem. I got plenty of melatonin. Hit me with your blue light. And then what's also supposed to happen is at the end of the day, the sun is going down. Here it is, lateral lights again at sunlight. So at sunset is what I was trying to say. And what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to, first of all, like snuggle with someone that you love, watch the sunset together. It's always me and my dog. And we have this moment here in Ojai that is called the pink moment. It is very, very beautiful when it's not cloudy, like when the weather is clear and sunlight is going down. And there's a time when like the mountains really are illuminated with a very beautiful pinkish glow. And we all try to like take a moment, stop, appreciate the pink moment. If you go to Sedona, which is another special place, it's all of the red energy of the red rocks. The sun goes down, but the red rocks are still kind of glowing with this warmth, this infrared, this glowing orange feeling state. And you should take time to soak it in. Like that's not the moment to be doing your tax papers. Like soak it in. Like it's a special moment. All right. So yeah, that's what primal human would do. You won't be wearing any clothes, you'd be walking around, getting the infrared all over your body. And then the primal human would get together with other primal humans and build a campfire. That is mostly the yellow-orange tones and then infrared. And these are all cellular support frequencies. So blue light, only small amounts, and only after you've been exposed to all of these healing and supportive frequencies that help to mitigate the inherent damage of the intensity of blue light. Now, if you look at the folly of the world that we find ourselves in, even though focus on the path of light, take refuge in the path of light, don't think about the rest of the world. But if you take a moment to consider the screwed upness, effed upness of the rest of the world, too much blue light. And that's blue light coming out of the phone screen, TV screen, LEDs, streetlights, don't get me started, they are evil. And also the Durl burned it headlights on the road these days. I can't even take it. I have very good night vision. I find it difficult to drive at night, not because my eyes are not sensitive enough, because they are too sensitive to these Durl burned, newfangled eye burning lasers that they put on these cars these days that are really not good at all. So none of that is helpful, and I think that is very anti-human agenda. But no, because your eyes have already adjusted to the darkness of the night, and then they have these incredibly bright LEDs that are facing towards you, and all of that is clearly very, very unhealthy and unhelping you in being able to navigate your physical world. So, but that's just minor and not very interesting. Okay. When superheated gases or plasmas have liberated electrons, it means that they transmit electricity. So instead of being stuck to their primary atom, they can go all over and carry electricity. A flame of fire actually can transmit electricity. So you're used to a copper wire insulated and carrying electricity in a line, but we're really talking now about electricity in its more primal and feral form that is not in a line, and that would be in its natural state. So a flame of fire transmits electricity, and so does a star in the sky, like a giant plasma living entity. And the living entity of the plasma star is becoming more intelligent as it emits its narratives, and those narratives come back. So you're not bouncing light from here, light from here, light to my eyes, light back to the sun. You're emitting a narrative. And then as I inhabit that narrative, my cognitive presence shrinks that loop down and sends it back to the sun. So in this diagram, you're not seeing a trajectory that is sending things back from point A to point B or point C to point A. It is the shrinking of the loop, that is the critical cognitive integument that you need to know that something is happening. That is the return journey. So I'm asking you to do a ton of heavy lifting whenever I show you that particular diagram. There's a lot more there than what is actually happening. The pattern of molecules when they are flying around in gases or floating around in a liquid, I call that a presence pattern. And it is actually like what is on all of my complex paintings here. It is actually a very complex divine harmonic pattern that you are witnessing expressed through the medium of matter. And it's an excellent example of how frequency creates and informs matter itself. Okay, wait. So in order to make the jump between all of these stages of matter, heat is added. Heat is intelligence. And in order to go from this level of reality, like stuff that is higher, more energy stuff, to less energy stuff, heat is removed. He is an incredible part of this journey. So that's to say, from this beam of light that is hyper intelligent, if you take heat away from it, then you end up with a plasma ball. And then if you take heat away from that, then you end up with a gas. And if you take heat away from that, then you end up with a liquid. Then you end up with a solid. And then if you take intelligence and the heat movement and dance movement of divine intelligence away from that, then you end up with the Bose-Einstein condensate, something that has zero intelligence, zero self-sentience to the point that it does not move through time. It does not experience existence because it no longer has presence. Okay, so people, you're starting to get tired. I can feel this. Let's focus on combustion. Let me find my notes for combustion here because we did photosynthesis and I drew it all out for you, but now you need to get to here. Let me take this and this out of the way. No, this will get to this will get to this, like this. Good, combustion. Because otherwise I'll leave you hanging. Otherwise, I'm going to give you half a recipe where it's like, here's how to take something that is moving at the speed of light and slow it down through photosynthesis and turn it into matter. But then how do you go from matter back into light? This is actually much more of an important question for you to answer because you guys have already mastered how to go from light into matter. You're here. You're a bunch of matter. You have mastered that. You have gone from being a pure light being moving at light speed and beyond into physical matter. Now you need to master the complementary journey, which is how to accelerate self from matter back into light. And again, I am not encouraging you to perform spontaneous human combustion on yourself, but combustion is the simpler way to be able to describe this as opposed to cellular respiration. So you go through this wonderful process of a beam of light that becomes part of a chloroplast, does the complex jumping in and out of the comfy chairs and becomes this glucose molecule. When that glucose molecule goes into your body and becomes available to your mitochondria, it's this 13-stage miraculous process that your mitochondria does to be able to like, first it does this, and then it does this, and then it does this, and then it does the hokey pokey, and then it turns itself around, and then it does this, and then finally energy comes out in the form of ATP. All of that is like so incredibly complex. It is not a very good example of the return journey. So let's look at something simple, which is methane. The gas that is known as methane or natural gas, and how methane plus oxygen equals light. And so when I go to this share again, now we'll get to this other thing. So not, wait, hold on a second. Not this. This part goes down. Not this. We already saw this. But this one. Good. Okay. Methane over here, which is carbon plus 4 hydrogens plus oxygen, except you've got O2, which is oxygen, but we've got 2 of them. So how many do we have, class? 4. We have 4. Good job. Translates into, and all of this has to balance with everything that's over here, carbon dioxide plus 2 H2O. So that means we have 2 water molecules plus, and then here's the critical thing, energy. This balancing out part over here is critical because it means that the stuff that's over here equals the stuff that's over here. And the stuff that's over here, the carbon dioxide and water, is only a small portion. The energy is a big portion. So when I turn on my stove, my fire where I boil my kettle in the morning, The first thing is, like you can't just turn on the gas. If you just turn on the gas, what will happen, class? Like you will die. Correct. You will die. You cannot do that. You have to turn on the gas and then you have to do something important, which is to create a spark. The spark is a small piece of energy. And that's actually what we find in this over here. Methane, CH4 plus oxygen, 2O2, plus a little bit of energy. That is the spark. So on my stove, it is immediate. Like it goes click, 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 hooray, it turns on. But some people have to take a match, and you took the match onto the methane, and that ignites it. That match or that spark is a little bit of energy, a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of light that is needed to break apart these original configurations of methane and oxygen. Get everybody out of the comfy chair. That is what happens right here. So then when you're out of the comfy chair, you have carbon plus hydrogen plus oxygen just sitting there waiting to jump into an even bigger comfy chair together. And then when it transforms, you end up having carbon dioxide, water, and a whole lot of light energy. Why does this happen? This whole lot of light energy over here is the direct relationship to methane over here. Methane contains a lot of energy because when you get down into the comfy chairs with your cats and dogs and hamsters and goats and whoever else is sitting with you, you guys are all in your restful state. You contain a lot of energy. The process of bonding requires and liberates light. But then the process of unbonding also requires light. But then the process of rebonding into this final form down here liberates even more light. So now let me see if I can draw this for you effectively. All right, I have all of my everything's prepared. You guys got it? You are ready? Like we're totally ready. We're not intimidated by this at all. We can do it. Good job. You can do it. Okay, but first let me see if I can even get the annotation. Miracles do happen. Like miracles occurred. There was an annotation that happened. Okay, so first thing, just like before, I'm going to get a good color and I'm going to draw. Let me see if I can do this for you properly. Because first I'm going to draw methane. Here's methane. This is your little comfy chair. And what you've got is one carbon. That's this big giant blob, just like before. And then I have to change colors to red. You have four H4. Let's make 4 dots, everyone, just like Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hooray. That is methane. Now let's draw oxygen. Now for oxygen, what I'm going to draw is actually 2 vortexes, vortex 1 and vortex 2. And I'm going to get the oxygen color, so that way everything's consistent on all of my things. And here we always have a pair of oxygen. There's always 2 of them. Boom, 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 because they are bonded together, okay? So the very first thing that happens is, let me grab yellow, because yellow is the spark. So here I'm adding a little bit of energy, a little bit of energy, a little bit of energy. And what that means is that all of those guys are going to unbond and they're all going to go up here. Here is carbon at the top of its vortex. Here are the little hydrogens at the top of their vortex. And then let's draw oxygen out of the comfy chair. Be like, I'm getting out of here. I got something to do. I can't sit around in a comfy chair all day. Boom. And then let's see if I can erase effectively with this. Ooh, pretty good. Okay, good. All right, so this is where they all go. They all go up. I erased part of the fabric of space-time, but don't worry, you're okay. Now I draw 3 more vortexes as I consult my notes. I have to consult the recipe of the fabric of space-time sometimes, guys. I'm pressing a button over here. Life is not happening for me. I'm pressing the color button. Just doesn't like me. Go to here. Then now go to here. Now do the thing. Okay, so now let's draw the vortexes that these guys are going to jump into. Comfy chairs that these are going to become. I've got 3. They're really badly drawn, but you can do it. Use your mental imagination. I believe in you. All right. So the first thing is some of these oxygens, some of them are going to fly away, but some of them are going to become part of what we have over here. Because what ends up happening is you have carbon dioxide and water. Okay. So first, let's draw. Here's carbon. Because this guy was up here at his comfy chair. He jumped out of his comfy chair. He just jumped down to here. Okay, I'm going to erase that arrow so that way you don't get confused. And carbon dioxide means that we have to bring down two oxygens. Here's the dioxide that goes into carbon dioxide. Oxygen 1, oxygen 2. I'm going to erase those lines so that you don't get scared. And these two are going to go over here. Boom, boom. That's carbon dioxide. That's carbon dioxide, all right? And now we're going to draw water. Let's X out this guy because we just used him. X out this guy because we just used him. But this guy, he is going to go down here. That was very badly drawn. And then this guy is going to go down here. All right over there like that. So now let's erase everyone who is no longer poised at the top of their vortex. They've all jumped into comfy chairs and they are all in their new format together, except, oops, I erased the dots. Okay, let's fix it. Instead of rewinding, let me just show you. You did have 4 of these hydrogen guys. You had them up there. She's like, Aurora, I'm already lost. No, come back. Don't be lost. Because now what's going to happen is these 4 dots are going to fly over here. We're going to go dot, dot here, and we're going to go dot, dot here, because that makes 2 water molecules, 2 H2O. You guys know what H2O is. The H's are the 2 and the O is the O. All right. So now we erase. These guys don't live up here anymore. These guys just went to live down here. And then the final thing is, wait, go to this. It's very hard for me to draw, but I'm doing it. Then the final thing is this, the lots of energy part. Let's draw lots of energy, because when I turn on my kettle, what comes out? Lots of energy. The yellow squiggles represent light. And then also let's do some red squiggles because that represents heat. When I turn on the flame of fire with the spark, it makes both light and heat. And that is combustion. And that is the liberation of light on its journey from something that is, hold on, I'll go back to my face here. Light flows as its inherent nature. Light is flowing on its journey, and that's an inherent part of its nature, and that is directly analogous to time. Both light and time have to be moving. Like me, I have to be moving as part of my nature, in case you can't notice from all of my treadmilling and general danceification, but I'm defined by the movingness of my presence. When you slow down light, it is no longer light, it becomes matter. But now for those of us who are in this class, you now are defining and thinking of all matter as part of the continuum of light. And the interactions and the sensory definitions that you have of matter and what it is doing in terms of how much heat it contains, you now also consider as an inherent description of the nature of what light is doing. I know. And that was a lot for you to get through. Okay. But I didn't get all the way through this, because when you see these things happening in either making glucose, as photosynthesis is making light matter out of light, or in combustion as something is being liberated in this form, what you're really witnessing is a transformation of the fabric of space-time, which represents thought. Light is thought. It is sentience. None of this is merely a mechanical thing. It's not just like, imagine whatever, like, I don't know if I have, here's a scarf. It's not just like, okay, like, here's the fabric of space-time. Let's bunch it all up, make some crazy wrinkles, and now let's take it all apart and iron it all out. Like, that's the end. Nonsense. No, this is actually all very, very intentional and specific. And the process of creating those little comfy chairs is a thought. And the process of getting everybody up out of the comfy chair is a different thought. And then the process of rebonding that matter into a new shape is a different thought. And what you're really recognizing with these microgravity wells being created and then ironed out and then being created in new compositions and patterns is the thinkingness of a much larger intelligent being. And I want to also call it supercomputer, but I don't want you to think of it mechanistically because, again, there's intelligence that informs all of this. So you're part of this larger computational process or this larger processor of intelligence. And the more that you align yourself with the metabolic activities, the more you become accelerated and intelligent. So I literally mean it. When I put my kettle on and I form combustion underneath the water starts moving faster inside of the kettle. And then I pour it on top of the tea or the coffee and I drink that. I am more intelligent. The warm nourishment comes inside of me as a form of intelligence. It is a form of light. So there's a real reason why heat in our presence, like why do humans gather around a fire? Because it is intelligence and it helps us to stay alive. Do you understand? Like being around intelligence is life affirming. Being around you can tell I'm organizing my brain, the formalism of matter is vivifying. What we call art and beauty is correctly arranged formalism in matter. Like, would you like to go to the museum and look at some correctly arranged molecules today? The answer is yes, I would. And when you go to see those correctly arranged molecules, you're like, my will to live is rising. Look at that. It is being exposed to beauty. As opposed to like, would you like to go to the garbage trash compactor field today and look at all of the discarded items of reality and watch them being, whatever, smushed together by trash compactors? You're like, no, I would not like to look at that. It's the antithesis of beauty. So please know that in order to have biological life, there had to be a certain amount of heat energy present for basic biological molecular miracles to occur. And then heat is absolutely necessary for the continuation of biological like culture or civilization, and even to the levels of biological complexity that allows this to happen. As I'm looking down at my notes, I'm also remembering I have to emphasize that this microgravity is in response and in relationship to light, but that light itself does not have mass. And electricity is a form of light and it does have mass. So electrons and plasma straddle the definition in your biological sensorium of what is light versus what is stuff, or what is energy versus what is stuff. But the gravity is responding to light. Light is creating the gravity, but gravity is not experienced by light in the sense of, again, of bicycle rolling downhill. So when those little tiny atoms jump into the comfy chair together, they're not rolling downhill. They're not like, oh, like here's me. I'm going to act this out. I'm an atom. I'm teetering on the edge of my vortex. And I fell over. I fell down and I just plopped on top of a bunch of other atoms. And then we all plopped together into a form of matter. No, as an individual atom poised at the top of one of those microgravity wells, the atom would be given a cognitive choice or an imperative, like, get down there now. That's light, a thought that makes it do that behavior. And when all of these coordinated atoms get together and do that behavior, they become matter. And so to summarize all of this for your own personal empowerment, for you to generate or manufacture matter, like, first of all, stuff is made from stuff. So you have to get building blocks of stuff in order to be able to make stuff. And the building blocks of stuff is basically light. So to be able to be micro telepathic and micro manipulative of matter on a microscopic level, or so that's like to bond and unbond things, and also to generate stuff. Like, you need to, if you want to make cupcakes, you have to go to the store and get cupcake ingredients. Making matter requires matter ingredients. Matter ingredients is our light, and light is the fabric of the reality space-time, and the fabric of reality space-time is made from threads of loops that are emitted from photons when they stay home in their comfy pajamas. Are you guys brain liquefied, or do you want me to go a little bit further? Let me go to questions. I have a little bit more in my notes, but I said, like, I'm going to ask them how much intensity they want. Okay, so Lalita, and thank you for being here, says heat, hot flashes, menopause, metamorphosis, intelligence increases. Absolutely. I don't know how it is relate how heat as a abstract nature of the cosmic infrastructure is related to the hormonal phenomenon that some people experience when they're going through menopause. I don't know how to relate to that, but I will say that on an abstract level, it is truthful that the more heat that you contain, that the more intelligence that you contain. I will also say that heat in our world is the end result of friction, which is a type of conflict or obstacleism. I don't have a better word, obstacality. And what we really want to do when we are getting on the bullet train of everythingness is to remove all friction. And in some senses, ego is defined as friction and verbalized thought is defined as friction. But I want you to know you still have an ego, but you have a lean, essential ego when you are a garden hose. So it's like when you're in your groove. When you're in your groove, you still are yourself. You have an ego. You have some sense of what you're doing, but there's a lot less friction between yourself and the experience of time. And that when you accelerate and you're on this bullet train of everyone and everything that actually exists, there is no friction. And so there is an infinite amount of heat, but there is no friction. And that is what we are trying to embody when we become plasma beings ourselves. We actually want to be more than a plasma being. If you're a plasma being, and I didn't go over this, but I had to go over this, light is polarized. So as I said, like sometimes light goes like this, like here's light going up, down, up, down, up, down. Here's like a up, down, up, down, up, down. It is polarized. Sometimes light goes like this. Side, 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 side is polarized. Sometimes it goes like this. Of all of the varieties of organizations that light can be as you're experiencing it, when you are shaped correctly and the light flows through you, it should be a frictionless experience that does not result in spontaneous human combustion. You should stay unmelted. And that is the effort that every single one of you is making as a spiritual athlete to shape yourself correctly, including the cytoplasm of your body, literally including like the water inside of your own body, so that way the refractory degree of light as it flows through you is the correct, I don't have a better way of saying it, to create the minimum amount of friction so that the light flows through you with no loss of signal. All right. Joyce says, I agree. Bright headlights should be outlawed. Thank you for affirming that to me. It ain't just me, and someone else agrees. They are dangerous. Absolutely. So I don't know why we're in such an anti-rational society. Like everyone who is like me and drives a car is like, these headlights are terrible. Like, why are manufacturers even putting them on cars? I don't know. We're on the path of light here, not the path of idiocy. So I don't even know why these things happen. But sometimes in my moments of clarity, when I'm swinging in a hammock, I do wonder, like, why do they even make those stupid headlights? Like, nobody likes them. Okay, so Rebecca, thank you for being here, says, so full spectrum light equals perfect instruction, equals coherence, equals perfect math, equals divine connection. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will add to and amplify what you just said. That is basic truth. We are calibrated to receive the light recipe that comes from this particular sun star. So for us to receive full spectrum light in this body container means that we have a certain recipe, but our recipe is not going to be healthy and good for someone that comes from a different planet. They would have to eat their light from their world, and you would not be happy and well fed by eating the light that comes from their world. So these are cognitive presences and values and worldviews and things that are calibrated directly for the people of this time place. It's very much not interchangeable. And we can make we can do lots of nonsense and silliness. You know, if I talk about the superhero character named Superman, the reason why he had superpowers is because he came from a different star system and he got augmented when he was in the presence of our sun. But just please know that these are not just interchangeable recipes. These are very much bespoke chef's choice that are coming to us in each moment from our beautiful star. And Joni's here and says, so us creational source thinking the photosynthesis into being. Oh, so say it better. So us creational source thinking the photosynthesis into being. So from singularity, the thought calls the atom into structure, or microgravity is thought, both of those things. Microgravity, the pre-existing comfy chairs, is thought. It is the narrative that the photon makes when it stays home in its comfy pajamas and makes a loop like this. And getting the molecules to jump out of the comfy chair or the ironing out of those microgravity wells is also a thought that the photon would think that would be something like, what if all of those guys unbonded and became available? What if hydrogen and oxygen unbonded from its watery state and became two gases that are then available to do something else in the world? And then the reconstruction of those puzzle pieces into a new form of matter or a new form of energy is also thought. So it's like thought, 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 and then thought with all of that. Now I will go further. I don't we always want to be talking about like the flaws of the scientific, rational kingdom in your world, but as I'm presenting these as thought structures, and all of these covalent bonding experiences are actually about microgravity and thoughts of a larger being. There are many bonding and unbonding molecular things that humans are in control of. Everything from igniting and extinguishing fires to creating various different chemical oxidation procedures and lots of molecular chemistry that humans are doing. But not all of it is according to these larger divine harmonic thought structures. Some bonding and unbonding is divinely harmonic, and some of it is pure crap, really not good. And the things that are pure crap and are really not good are a lot of the chemical processes and chemical byproducts that are anti-life, that are pathogenic, and that create diseases or environmental degradation. So it goes from being life is a dead, stupid place, and the sun is dead and stupid, and molecules are dead and stupid. I can do whatever I want with them as a hubristic scientist, to the world is alive. The fabric of space-time is the fabric of space-time and consciousness. Cognitive events are causing the bonding and unbonding of molecules, even at the point of combustion. And I should really reassess what I am burning or not burning and when I'm doing it, because all of this is a much deeper, profound activity than I have presumed from my initial scientific nonsensification to my now more informed recognition while I'm on the path of light. You got it? So you can't just burn stuff for fun or whatever, bond stuff together and make chemical reactions happen just for fun. All of this is part of the affecting or interacting with larger cognitive thought structures of divinity. And Jane says, it's rare, but I've heard of people spontaneously combusting. They die, of course, but what in the world? I know. And I haven't heard of this for a long time, but there used to be like the Ripley's Believe It or Not, Guinness Book of World Records, blah, blah, blahs of telling all of these cases of people who had spontaneously combusted. And I think it's a real thing. So I don't know if the conditions for modern life make it less likely to happen, because parts of me have thought that maybe it is at times a type of failed metamorphosis or a spontaneous but partial and not truly spiritually guided change of state. Because when you had Aurora, how does all this relate to me? Why are you laboriously, painfully, tediously describing all this to you? Because you're gonna go from being matter into light, okay? And you're gonna jump out of the comfy chair and you're gonna unbond and rebond in fantastic ways. And you're going to go from the definition of being slower than light, the definition of being faster than light, but you're not necessarily going to burn in the experience. So it would be my definition of not a failed, but a not completely successful ascension or transformation, metamorphose experience if a person combusted because that would denote friction. You don't want to combust. When like you're rubbing two sticks together, there's friction, and that's part of what makes the combustion. You don't want to be rubbing two sticks together. You want to be perfectly clear conduit for light. And as that light flows through you, there is no friction, there is no obstacality, and there's just the total acceleration. Think of it like this. If you read a book or receive information from the library and there's no friction and it just comes inside of you, there's no limitation or slowness. There's just like, oh, that's a new truth. And then that's true. And then that is true. And then that is true. And then that is true. All this stuff just comes inside of you. Friction would be the sense of resistance, misapprehension, like not comprehending things, or outright rejection of truth. And we're not going to go into it in this class, but in my other classes, I speak a lot and very analytically talk about those sweat hogs of reality, those who are bad students in the school of life. Information comes inside of them, but they're like, no, I reject that information. That information is very inconvenient to me. I will be rejecting that information right now, and it will be received as pure friction. that's who gets incinerated. So perhaps spontaneous human combustion is or are people who were unprepared for that level of influx of energy and metamorphosis, or perhaps they resisted, or perhaps it wasn't perfect in some way. But I'm not really prepared to be able to say exactly what did or didn't happen. And so it might, in this case, I don't pretend to have all the answers. And Yoni says, I have understood a walk-in that goes wrong could combust. I'm not sure about that. And I will say every time people do a walk-in, like it's very serious. It's not something that can be done casually at all. The challenge of inserting your consciousness into a physical container and really embodying that container is very, very difficult. So please never think that it's like going on a holiday. Like, I think I'll go to France or I think I'll become a walk-in. Like, it's a real peril to be able to get into the body, and then very, very difficult to do the type of fine-tuning, calibration, and matching neurologically to feel like your feet are really in your shoes and your hands are really in your gloves. You got to, calibrate to all of that. And so that's why, like, I am really curious whenever people talk about having a multiple walk-in experience. They're like, oh yeah, this thing walked into me for 5 years and then they walked out, and then something else walked in for 7 years and then they walked out. I'm always thinking, like, how can you do that? Because, like, really, once in a lifetime is enough. So that's just a brief, kind of mystifying, a brief, informal sharing that I've had with you of people when they say like that they are multiple walk-ins. I think you always have to question that. And also, you're correct in comprehending that there are a lot of things that can go wrong. I don't know if it would result in combustion or loss of the soul or just a metabolic death, if you would just be like, oh, that person just randomly died when it was really supposed to be a walk-in. But very good question. Okay, so I'll open the floor to any more questions or comments. And I know I still had more things that I wanted to talk about. Basically, light isn't, I talk about the liberation of light. We'll go into this next week because I don't want to just like totally destroy your mind. But we're going to talk about the liberation of light. I don't want you to think when I say liberation that it's like, oh, light is imprisoned and we have to get it out, kind of like some kind of Gnostic sense of like, oh, like poor light, like, open the key, get it out of imprisonment. No, like the liberation is kind of like the restoration or getting it back up to light speed. And hopefully you think of yourself in the same level on a journey, although people have been feeling very limited or unfulfilled in this world. Please recognize that the existence of being in a material was not meant to be an imprisonment. Just like when light does photosynthesis, it is not meant to be an imprisonment or anything that is negative or wrong. And then in freedom, you are meant to be able to feel again, like, free or unencumbered in the reattainment of light speed. So Einstein giving you the linear view, the bicycle view of what light is doing, and also kind of a negative prognosis, like, okay, kid, like you're in matter, you're never getting back to light. So chomping my cigar, like, get comfortable around here. It ain't pretty. And I'm like, no, that is actually not truthful. And I think that that's very negative grooming, and really important for people to know that your acceleration or reacceleration back to light is part of the fabric of space-time and quite inevitable. So any worldviews or limiting indoctrination would be very erroneous and very antithetical, and it would not stand for very much longer. Okay, so good. I think you guys have all done enough. You're all like pouring sweat, puffing. Are we done yet? Okay, like, look, I have a few more pages of notes, but I think you've done enough heavy lifting. Look, you all need protein, you need water, you need rest, you need to scoop your brains back up and put them back into your ears. Okay, throw your books and pencils up in the air. Do something silly for the next couple of hours, process everything, do something silly. But you all did a very, very good job of doing the heavy exercises here. It's actually one of my favorite things to teach about is this teaching about photosynthesis. And I'll just bring it to a close by telling you about this. Like when I drive, and of course, I'm always paying attention to the road, so don't run into things. But I'm always like, wow, like there are trees and grass and all these things on either side of the road. And as I'm driving along, I'm always like, miracles of photosynthesis are happening all over the place. So please be on the path of light. Embed yourself with this viewpoint of wonder. Every place where you look, there's photosynthesis everywhere. And this is this amazing transformation warpage of the fabric of space-time in the presence of light. don't take it for granted and know that it is a visible miracle that you are embedded with at all times. And Mary Ellen says, LOL, it was a lot, reminds me of chemistry classes. I know. And people are sometimes scarified by the time they make it to me. They're like, oh no, I remember this. I don't like seventh grade, rocking back and forth. Like, don't worry, guys. This is the cleansing experience where you get to actually learn important stuff that is difficult to comprehend, but applicable to your life. Okay. So just be in your reveries. Think about the miracle of even the amount of heat that is required in your ambient environment to maintain water in a liquid state. Be like, this is a miracle. Miracles are right here. Miracles are right there. And miracles are, sustaining and flowing through your existence at all time. Okay. You're so very, Michelangelo says, thank you, Master Aurora. Love to all. You're so very welcome. I'm truly grateful. I love teaching this class. I love being a teacher and sharing these ideas with you. Thank you very, very much I know this is not easy stuff to do. Thank you. This is like at the end of one of those difficult aerobics classes where the coach is saying like, good job, everyone. You all deserve a good job. And then you have to drink your protein smoothie or whatever, because you did lots and lots of hard work. But I'm very, very pleased that you do it. And I love teaching you guys. And Yoni says, Aurora is flying at speed of light and driving 35 miles per hour on the expressway while looking at Earth. I totally am. I am at the speed of light. And so for me, 35 miles per hour, this is like kind of slow, and I'm kind of like, oh, dumb. But I really mean it. But I'm safe when I drive. I'm very safe, I promise. And Joyce says, thank you, Professor Aurora. Love and appreciate you immensely. Hugs for Cheeky too. You're so very welcome. Thank you guys for allowing me some breaks to be able to take care of Cheeky and give her voluminous bribes. We're going to hug her right away. And also thank you very much for every time people send love and appreciation to her. She's thriving and doing really, really well. Okay, so good. Okay, books and pencils, throw them in the air. Go do something silly. Like seriously, watch cartoons, play with your dog, do fun stuff. And my profound gratitude for you guys for being in my class and for being such wonderful students. And thank you to the people who catch this class casually, who haven't formally enrolled. But please know that the whiteboards really help make everything make a lot more sense. So dive in, don't be scared. And if you need to contact me to be able to access those whiteboards, just send me an email and remind me. Okay, thank you. Positive blessings, everyone. Thank you very much.